Chapter 78. Today was the first day of school for Binger. After Ouyang Shuo went offline, he hurriedly washed up and brought Binger downstairs. After a simple breakfast downstairs, they hurried to school. They finally arrived at school before 9 o'clock. Not long after returning from school, the game pod that Sun Xiaoya had ordered arrived. It was installed in her bedroom, and she could start playing tonight. At 8 o'clock, Ouyang Shuo logged into the game again and practiced spear training and Bajiquan for 2 hours as usual. Last night, when he passed by the grocery store during the Lantern Festival, he suddenly realized that ever since the grocery store was built, he, as the Lord, had never entered it once. The grocery store was one of the few beginner shops in the territory. The shopkeeper was a beginner peddler, Li Fugue. This middle-aged shopkeeper with a stout appearance and a big belly was shocked to the point his jaw almost dropped when he saw Ouyang Shuo, and he spoke incoherently. "Lord, your presence brings light to my humble store. Please come in, please come in." The grocery store sold daily necessities such as oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, and tea. Other than salt, the rest were products that couldn't be produced in the territory. The reason why the grocery store could make these products appear out of thin air was because of the magical shelf on the peddler's back. The peddler's shelf was similar to the market. It could make long-distance transactions and teleport. When the transaction volume reached a certain scale, the shelf would be upgraded. The level of the peddler and the grocery store would also increase. Unlike the market, the shelf could only be used to purchase daily necessities. Moreover, it could only be bought and not sold. Facing Ouyang Shuo's visit, Li Fugue couldn't wait to reveal all of his assets. He didn't hide the secret of the grocery store. In his previous life, Ouyang Shuo was only an adventurer. How would he know about the secrets of the grocery store? This time, it was an eye-opener. "Sir, the grocery store actually has a hidden function," Li Fugue said mysteriously. "Oh, what is it?" "In principle, the grocery store can only be bought and not sold. The only exception is the territory specialty. If a certain product is determined by the system to be a territory specialty, then it can be sold through the grocery store. The transaction tax is only 10%. Li Fugue explained. What he didn't say was that selling specialty increased the peddler's experience much faster than selling daily necessities. This was his selfish motive. Specialty? Ouyang Shuo frowned. He did not know if the Gillen three-flower wine could be considered a specialty of Shanghai town. After all, there was no Gillen prefecture among the 9 royal cities. It seemed that he would have to find some time to go to the winery to see how the three-flower wine was going. There was nothing wrong with giving it a try. "Yes. All right, I understand. I will pay attention to this news." Ouyang Shuo nodded. After leaving the general store, Ouyang Shuo walked into the intermediate market. He wanted to purchase a batch of vegetable seeds in preparation for the construction of the vegetable garden. In ancient times, there were many kinds of vegetables that could be grown in spring. In order to maximize the richness of the people's food basket, he did not neglect any of them. There were garlic, cabbages, cucumbers, eggplants, spinach, lettuce, carrots, peppers, pumpkins, string beans, tomatoes, zucchini, and green onions. Then, he bought some seeds of commonly used medicinal herbs in preparation for the establishment of the herb garden. The construction of a medicinal garden was more difficult than that of a vegetable garden. Many medicinal herbs needed to be transplanted from the wild. When he was visiting the grocery store just now, he realized that there were so many goods in the territory that were not self-sufficient. To think that he had been so proud of himself for having established a relatively complete variety of industries. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he spent 30 gold coins to buy the Vinegar Brewing Technique Manual and Soy Sauce Brewing Technique Manual. After returning from the market, Ouyang Shuo called Sun Yanong, Du Xiaolan, and Zhao Duan to his office and explained his vegetable basket plan to them. The vegetables will be planted in a centralized manner. The Department of Agriculture will have to clear 200 acres of vegetable fields to plant all kinds of vegetables. The Department of Materials will have to prepare vegetable stalls. The Department of Construction will have to cooperate with the Department of Materials to build vinegar brewing, soy sauce, and tofu factories. This will improve the condiments and non-staple foods for the residents. In addition, this plan will also have to be implemented in the 2 subsidiary territories. You have to urge them to do so. The three division chiefs naturally had no objections and nodded in agreement. Sir, after the vinegar brewing, soy sauce, and tofu factories are officially operating, should we set up corresponding shops to sell them? Du Xiaolan asked. A thought flashed through Ouyang Shua's mind. Du Xiaolan's question had stimulated an idea in him. He said excitedly, "No, there's no need. As the Department of Materials wants to sell more and more products, we can't just set up a shop for every new product. That's not logical. My suggestion is to simply set up a large-scale farmers market and move the previous grain and meat shops into the farmers market. In addition, the vegetables grown in the vegetable fields, fruits from the orchard, fish from the North Sea village, poultry eggs, soy sauce condiments, tofu, and other agricultural products will all be sold in the farmers market." Du Xiaolan's eyes lit up, and she said excitedly, "Sir, this is a great idea. This way, not only will it be very convenient for the residents, but everyone will also be able to buy all the agricultural products in one place. Furthermore, it will be convenient for the Department of Materials to manage and reduce the number of people stationed here." Ouyang Shua shook his head. Not only that, setting up a farmer's market will also make it convenient for the tax department to collect taxes. More importantly, the farmer's market will provide a platform for individual businesses to sell their products, which will further stimulate the territory's economy. For example, those who raise chickens and ducks at home can sell their eggs at the farmer's market in exchange for household subsidies. After they have tasted the benefits, they will automatically expand the scale of raising chickens and ducks even without our urging. In the future, we will also gradually lift the restrictions on vegetables, fruits, tofu, and other agricultural products to allow individual businesses to operate and further support the development of individual businesses. Du Xiaolan and the others nodded in agreement. They were impressed by Ouyang Shua's foresight. The reason why we want to centralize the cultivation of vegetables is not to compete with the residents. Instead, it is out of consideration for the overall planning of the territory. If we don't control it, then there will definitely be a situation where vegetable fields will blossom everywhere, which will be detrimental to the planning of the city. Therefore, the prerequisite for lifting the restrictions on vegetables and fruits is that there will be residents who will settle down in the planned suburbs. Ouyang Shua explained further. Sun Yanong nodded, finally dispelling the doubts in his heart. The construction of the farmer's market will be handled by the construction department. Although I know that the construction of the city wall and the moat have entered a critical period, we still need to find a way to transfer craftsmen and construct the farmer's market as soon as possible, including the 3 workshops that we mentioned earlier, Ouyang Shua said to Zhao Duong. "Sir, rest assured, I will definitely complete the task," Zhao Duong said loudly. "Good, go ahead." Ouyang Shua took the opportunity to end the conversation. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Ouyang Shua was in his office flipping through the governmental staffing and salary system planning of the administrative department when the gatekeeper reported, "Sir, Dojo Master Lin Yu requests an audience. Invite him in." Ouyang Shua was still very polite to this fist technique master. He personally poured a cup of tea for him and said with a smile, "This is this year's new tea. Please have a taste, Master Lin." Lin Yu picked up the teacup and took a sip. "Good tea." He gently put down the teacup and said awkwardly, "To tell you the truth, I have a request this time. Master Lin, there's no need to be so polite. I owe you a debt of gratitude for teaching me, so as long as it doesn't violate my principles, please don't hesitate to tell me." It was rare for this low-profile fist technique master to ask a favor from him, so how could Ouyang Shua let go of this opportunity to improve their relationship? It's like this. The 5 disciples that I have accepted can already finish their apprenticeship. I want to find a job for them in the military, and I hope that you can help me, Lin Yu said. Ouyang Shua was silent. He was moved by Lin Yu's character. With his brother Lin Yi's influence in the military, it was a piece of cake for him to arrange for a few dojo disciples to work in the military. Moreover, it wasn't against the rules. However, he didn't do so. Instead, he put down his pride and came to Ouyang Shua, obviously to avoid arousing suspicion. Such a clear distinction between public and private affairs was really admirable. The dojo disciples have received the true teachings of Master Lin's 8 extremities fist. It's naturally great to be able to join the military. I guarantee that once they enter the military, they can take up the position of squad leader. If their performance is good, it's not impossible for them to be promoted to squad leader or squadron leader. Ouyang Shuan nodded and said, "Thank you, Master." This kind of treatment was obviously the Master's affirmation of him. So how could he not be grateful? After Lin Yu left, Ouyang Shua took some time to go to the military camp. The current military camp had been upgraded to an advanced military camp. Whether it was the area or the various facilities, it was not something that the previous intermediate military camp could compare to. After Shanghai Town was promoted to a second-class town, they didn't rush to expand the military. They still maintained the establishment of a cavalry squadron and an infantry squadron. It wasn't that Ouyang Shua didn't want to expand the military, but they lacked a general. If they blindly expanded the military, they wouldn't even have someone to lead the troops. Ouyang Shua found Zhao Sihu and told him about the arrangements for the dojo disciples. According to his plan, these 5 disciples would be assigned to the infantry squadron as squad leaders. Zhao Sihu nodded in agreement. He had already passed the advanced military camp's class change room and became a beginner general, officially taking up the position of an infantry squadron leader. He was worried about choosing a squad leader, and this was undoubtedly a timely help. Name, Jiaosu Black Iron. Identity, Shanghai Town Infantry Squadron Leader. Profession, beginner to general. Loyalty, 85 Commander, 28 Strength, 35 Intelligence, 20 Politics, 15 Arts, none equipment. Exquisite ring sword, golden leather armor, exquisite shield. Remarks, born in the wilderness, tempered by blood and fire. Advanced to a rank 9 elite soldier, and became a general. It could be seen that a general like Zhao Sihu, who had advanced from a rank 9 elite soldier, was a bit lacking compared to a beginner general like Lin Yi. The most important difference was that he didn't have his own arts. Chapter 79. When he went offline the next day, he met Sun Xiaoye, who had just gone offline. Ouyang Shua asked with a smile, "How was it? This game isn't bad, right? Isn't it very realistic? Greater than over equal to. It's just too realistic. I don't even have money to pay the tuition." Sun Xiaoye complained. Architect was also a relatively special profession among the lifestyle professions. After entering the game, they first needed to study at the Royal City School of Architecture and obtain a junior architect certification after graduation. After that, there were 3 options. One was to join the player's territory and become a professional architect. Player territory construction activities were frequent, and there were many opportunities for practice. The disadvantage was that the level of the territory at this stage was generally not high and could not participate in large-scale engineering design. Their field of vision was relatively narrow, which was not conducive to later development. The second was to join the Royal City Construction Department and become their non-staff staff. This was, of course, a very good choice as they could come into contact with many very high-level buildings. They could quickly improve their architect level and broaden their horizons. However, it was difficult for ordinary players to intern in these heavyweight departments without connections. The last was to continue their studies in the School of Architecture and obtain an intermediate architect certification after graduation. This was also the highest level that could be achieved in the School of Architecture. The advantage of further studies in the School of Architecture was that they could further build a solid foundation, and it was easier to obtain internship opportunities in the Royal City Construction Department after graduation. The disadvantage was that they had to endure loneliness and be able to pay the high tuition fees. Either way, it wasn't something that a lone ranger could do. The tuition fee for the School of Architecture was 1 gold coin, and the tuition fee for further studies was 10 gold coins. This didn't include the additional expenses during the study process, such as the cost of purchasing drawing tools, pens, etc., elective course expenses, and so on. Therefore, behind every successful architect, there was the support of a lord. For an architect, the best training route was to first obtain an intermediate architect certification in the School of Architecture and then establish connections to intern in the Royal City Construction Department until they were promoted to senior architect. After that, they could work in the player's territory and become the chief architect of the territory. This was a win-win situation for both the architect and the lord. The premise was that the Lord who supported you had enough financial support. In his previous life, someone had calculated that it would cost at least 150 gold coins to train a senior architect. Just establishing a relationship with the construction department required 100 gold coins. With such a large investment, the Lord was naturally very cautious. Either they signed an agreement in advance, or they chose someone they could trust in reality. Sun Xiaoya's appearance was undoubtedly the best choice for Ouyang Shuo. Therefore, when he knew that Sun Xiaoya wanted to play a life profession, he actively recommended the architect. Ouyang Shuo didn't hide anything. He told Sun Xiaoya everything about the architect and waited for her to make a choice. The premise of a happy cooperation was mutual trust, and the foundation of mutual trust was information symmetry. Sun Xiaoya, on the other hand, was very straightforward. She said with a smile, "Great Lord Ouyang, it's a pleasure working with you. Happy working with you. Tell me your ID, and I'll transfer 50 gold coins to you. Let me know after you graduate, and I'll prepare the follow-up funds for you." Ouyang Shuo said with a smile. The reason why he didn't prepare 150 gold coins at once was that it wasn't necessary. Even an apprentice with a professional background like Sun Xiaoya would need at least 2 to 3 months to graduate from the School of Architecture. Secondly, he did not want to expose his financial strength. At this stage, there were not many lords who could casually take out 150 gold coins to sponsor an apprentice architect. Sun Xiaoya, this girl was very cunning. He couldn't let her see any flaws. Even so, Sun Xiaoya was shocked. Although she only stayed in the game for a short day, it was enough for her to realize the rarity of gold coins. According to her calculations, Ouyang Shuo would be able to take out 10 gold coins at most. Who would have thought that this guy didn't even bat an eyelid and directly wanted to transfer 50 gold coins to her? Sun Xiaoya stared at Ouyang Shuo as if she was looking at a monster. Her eyes were full of curiosity as she asked, "Hey, be honest. Are you very famous in the game? Are you the kind of lord that everyone knows? Otherwise, why won't you tell me your ID, and now you can casually take out so many gold coins?" "Cough, you're thinking too much. In order to sponsor you this time, I've gone bankrupt. You have to further your studies, or else I'll go bankrupt," Ouyang Shuo said stubbornly. Sun Xiaoya had a face of disbelief and said with dissatisfaction, "It would be strange if I believed you. You're always mysterious all day long." Okay, don't put on a little submissive expression. If you don't want to say, I won't ask. My in-game ID is Xiaoya. I just changed one word. Remember it." Ouyang Shuo nodded. This girl was really lazy at naming things. After Sun Xiaoya went to school, Ouyang Shuo didn't stay idle. He first browsed the forums to understand the major events in the game and grasp the latest developments. Following that, he began practicing 8 Extremities Fist at home. It had been a while since he learned 8 Extremities Fist. His body already had some memories, so he could begin practicing in real life. In fact, training in a dojo was the most suitable place to practice fist techniques. With the rise of ancient martial arts, professional dojos were built everywhere. Not only were there all kinds of professional training tools, but they were also equipped with all kinds of high-tech equipment. They could directly test a warrior's strength, endurance, explosive power, and other physical data. Unfortunately, to ensure the safety of the practitioners, these dojos were installed with surveillance cameras. Unless it was a high-level client, all secrets would be exposed in front of the dojo. The 8 Extremities Fist that Ouyang Shuo was practicing was different from the 8 Extremities Fist in real life. After Gaia's modifications, it was even more powerful. Of course, he didn't dare to go to the dojo to practice. If he left any traces, there was a risk of exposure. This was the helplessness of the weak. If he had the same power in real life, he would naturally be able to do as he pleased. He wouldn't have such scruples. Wasn't he working so hard in the game so that he could receive different treatment in the future Planet Hope? Casting aside all distracting thoughts, Ouyang Shuo focused on practicing 8 Extremities Fist. The more focused he became, the more his body gradually condensed to force. It was fierce and biting cold. This was the fist intent of 8 Extremities Fist. This meant that his 8 Extremities Fist had officially reached the beginner level. After finishing, his body was drenched in sweat. However, he felt especially refreshed and carefree. Physical training could make a person's personality more cheerful. Long-term martial arts training could even change a person's temperament, making them more confident and able to move freely. To replenish the consumption of martial arts training during the day, Ouyang Shua specially cooked a pot of nourishing chicken soup at night. He added a lot of expensive Chinese medicine. Credits would become invalids soon anyway, so he didn't feel the pinch spending it. After dinner, Ouyang Shua ignored son Xiaoya's mischievous gaze. He returned to his room and logged into the game. He first anonymously transferred 50 gold coins to son Xiaoya and then walked out of the bedroom. In the courtyard, the maidservants Si Qin and Si Qi were helping Ying Yu and Qing to freshen up. When they saw Ouyang Shua, they bowed to greet him. Ouyang Shua nodded and began to practice the unshakable great spear in the courtyard. After Qing finished washing up, she didn't leave. Instead, she stood at the side with great interest and watched Ouyang Shua practice martial arts. After he finished practicing, she said, "Big brother, you arranged for me to be a high-level consultant in the first workshop. Qing doesn't have the energy to take care of the tailor shop every day. Moreover, there are so many people in the territory every day. I'm almost overwhelmed by the previous orders. You're too greedy. Isn't it for your own good that I arranged for you to be in the first workshop? Being able to participate in the production of the radiant armor will improve your tailoring skills by a lot. Otherwise, if you were to sew ordinary clothes all day long, when would you be able to advance again?" Ouyang Shua said dotingly. Actually, with Qing Er's identity as a master tailor, she was more qualified than Wang Zhuan to manage the first workshop. Unfortunately, this girl wasn't born to be a supervisor. She also didn't have any intention of doing so. Without a choice, he could only arrange for her to be a high-level consultant. It could be said that he had put a lot of thought into it. Qing knows that Big Brother is doing it for my own good, but I'm really too busy, the little girl said coquettishly. She was just short of acting coquettishly to Ouyang Shua. That's why I said you're too greedy. You want to improve your tailoring skills, but you can't bear to leave the tailor shop. Ouyang Shua's face was full of helplessness towards this little money grubber. He then said, "How about this? Big Brother will give you an idea. I guarantee that you can have the best of both worlds." Although Qing was a little embarrassed by Ouyang Shua's words, she still couldn't bear to leave her tailor shop. She said excitedly, "What idea? Big Brother, quickly say it. You're now the shopkeeper of the tailor shop. You also have the contract signed with the supplies reserve department. As long as you're willing to share some of the profits, find a few more intermediate tailors to cooperate with, and open a clothing workshop to be responsible for this order, the problem will be solved. In this way, the tailor shop can focus on high-end custom-made clothes, and the ordinary orders will all be handed over to the clothing workshop. At the same time, you can also take out more time to participate in the work of the first workshop. You can improve your skills and make money without neglecting either one." Ouyang Shua said, "Bringing in partners, cooperating with a shareholding system, and making the cake bigger. Delegating the low-end manufacturing business and focusing on the high-end business was something that only he could think of. Not only Qing, but even Ying Yu, who had appeared out of nowhere, was fascinated by the idea. She exclaimed in admiration, "Big Brother's idea is really wonderful. It directly raises the way of doing business to a new level. This little sister admires it. The Commerce Department can completely use this idea to carry out the transformation of the major shops." Ouyang Shua smiled and nodded. He was very gratified by Ying Yu's inference. As for Qing, this girl was hiding in a corner and laughing. Chapter 80. Ouyang Shua wanted to talk to Ying Yu about the Department of Commerce, but the gatekeeper suddenly reported, "Sir, Pool Village sent a messenger, saying that they have something important to report." Ouyang Shua was shocked. It seemed like something big had happened, so he hurried to the front yard. When he returned to the office, he asked the gatekeeper to bring the messenger in. The messenger was a young man in coarse linen clothes. When he saw Ouyang Shua, he immediately bowed and said, "Sir, I have brought an urgent letter from Pool Village." Ouyang Shua took the letter and opened it. His face was gloomy. The letter was written by the village chief of Pool Village, Zhao Dexian. In the letter, he wrote, "Yesterday afternoon, the farmers of Pool Village who were cultivating the farmland at the foot of the mountain found a group of unidentified people lingering outside the village. They were sneaky and obviously harbored ill intentions. The farmers sent people back to the village to report, and at the same time, wanted to catch the thieves and return to the village to claim their reward. Unexpectedly, these people were all strong, and the farmers were no match for them. Both sides clashed, and many farmers were injured. The strange thing was that these thieves did not kill anyone. The farmers who were injured accidentally when they were resisting. When Zhang Daniyu led the team to support, the thieves had already escaped into the mountain and disappeared. Considering that it was already late, and the newly formed garrison team was not familiar with the jungle environment, Zhang Daniyu did not give chase hastily. Instead, he arranged for a capable spy to go ahead and follow the footprints left by the enemies. Early in the morning, Zhang Daniyu led the garrison team and followed the traces left by the spy into the mountains. Zhao Dexian felt that something was not right. While he personally guarded Pool Village, he sent a messenger to report, hoping to hear Sir's opinion on how to deal with it. According to the description of the injured farmers, the thieves used a black cloth to wrap their heads. They wore a long gown with a white waist and straight pants. The weapons in their hands were simple and crude, a long spear. According to these descriptions, Ouyang Shuo could basically conclude that the people who were spying on Pool Village were the barbarians living at the border between Lianzhou Basin and Lingnan. Before the Qin dynasty, the people of the Central Plains called the tribes south of the Yangtze River Azyu. The Lingnan region was Nanyue, while the Guangxi region was Luoyue. After the Qin dynasty, the term Luoyue was rarely used. It was replaced by Nanman. According to historical records, Gaia arranged these barbarians to live in the mountains and forests. There were a large number of barbarians living in the forest at the border between Guangxi and Lingnan. These mountain barbarians were scattered all over the mountain in units of tribes. They were all strong and healthy, but they weren't good at production. In addition, they lived in a harsh environment, living in barren mountains and unruly rivers. There was a shortage of food, so their clansmen often starved to death. In order to survive, the mountain barbarians would often come out of the mountains to attack the nearby villages in order to obtain food. This time around, Zhao Dexian had been ordered to build Pool Village. It had only been a few days, but it had already attracted the attention of these mountain barbarians. They had sent people down the mountain to investigate the situation. Ouyang Shuo decided to adopt a conciliatory policy towards these barbarians. Although the mountain barbarians were not good at production, they were extremely outstanding soldiers, especially suitable for forming heavy infantry. If he could convince them to migrate from the mountains to settle down in Shanghai town, they would definitely be of great help. Most of the mountain barbarians near Lianzhou Basin were descendants of Luo Yu. Back then, Qin Shi Huang's invasion of the other Yu countries was very smooth, but the invasion of Luo Yue was very difficult. The 300,000 Qin soldiers fought against the 10,000 to 20,000 Luo Yue soldiers for a long time and were unable to take them down, so there was a record of not removing their armor for 3 years. Finally, after Qin Shi Huang built the Guilin and Xing'an Canal and ensured the supply of food and fodder, he finally conquered Luo Yue. From this, it could be seen that the people of Luo Yue were brave and good at fighting. In his previous life, one of the 3 hegemons of Lianzhou, Ba Dao, relied on the heavy infantry formed by the mountain barbarians to conquer the cities and strongholds. He was invincible and dominated the Lianzhou Basin. In this life, Ouyang Shuo was definitely not going to let Ba Dao dominate. Perhaps because of his appearance, he could take drastic measures and make Ba Dao's heavy infantry a thing of the past, cutting off an important arm of his competitor in advance. This feeling was, of course, great. Remembering that Zhang Daniyu had already led his troops into the mountains, Ouyang Shuo was worried that the garrison team would clash with the mountain barbarians and affect his conciliatory policy. Therefore, he was prepared to make a trip to Pool Village personally. He first informed the 3 directors of his itinerary and told them not to worry. Then, he rode Black Whirlwind and rushed to the military camp. Just in case, he was prepared to bring along the infantry platoon and the Military Intelligence Bureau to follow him to Pool Village. As for the cavalry platoon, it was impossible for them to march in the forest, so it would be useless even if they went. The group rushed to the pier and rode on the fleet formed by the carriage office to the newly built pier on the other side. Along the way, Zhao Sihu was extremely excited and asked with a smile, "Sir, are we going to fight?" Ouyang Shuo shook his head. He really couldn't do anything about this group of energetic ruffians. "I'm bringing you guys along mainly to serve as a deterrent. You can't fight." Oh, hearing that they were just cheerleaders, Zhao Sihu was a little disappointed. When they arrived at Pool Village, Zhao Daxian had already received the news and led a group of chief officials to welcome them at the entrance of the village. This was Ouyang Shuo's first time coming to Pool Village. Naturally, he mainly encouraged this batch of pioneers. He chatted happily with the group of officials and understood the construction situation of Pool Village in detail. He listened to their plans and difficulties and answered them one by one. Seeing that their lord was so calm, the villagers of Pool Village felt much more at ease. After a simple welcoming ceremony, Ouyang Shuo led his troops into Pool Village's military camp. Now that the situation was unclear, he couldn't act rashly. He could only order the infantry platoon to wait in the military camp while instructing the Military Intelligence Bureau to follow Zhang Dainiu's marching route and gather as much information as possible about the mountain barbarian tribes. Before he left, he specially instructed the spies from the Military Intelligence Bureau to immediately order them to return the way they came if they hadn't fought with the mountain barbarians when they caught up with the garrison troops. If there was already a conflict, they had to bring their own goodwill and not make a big deal out of it. After the arrangements were made, Ouyang Shuo didn't idle around. Taking the opportunity, he started a tour Pool Village under Zhao Daxian's guidance. Pool Village was now a level 3 village. The most important task now was to cultivate the farmland. They had to cultivate 20,000 mu of farmland before the Qingming festival. The layout of the entire Pool Village was simply a replica of Shanghai Village. Even the location of the pier and ferry were symmetrical to Shanghai Village. The two villages were like a pair of twin stars, guarding the entrance of the canyon. Of course, as they were relying on the population allocated from Shanghai Village to level up quickly, it was a little like spoiling seedlings to help them grow. Compared to Shanghai Village, Pool Village's foundation was a little lacking. Even Beihai Town, which had been upgraded to a level 1 town, had the same problem. The quality of the people in Pool Village, especially the administrative staff, wasn't good enough to take on big responsibilities. They could only work together slowly. Fortunately, Village Chief Zhao Daxian was one of the earliest batch of officials in Shanghai Town. He had a thorough understanding of the administrative structure of Shanghai Town. With him presiding over the overall situation, the entire administrative structure could barely function. In the entire structure of the territory, Ouyang Shuo adopted a dual leadership system for the various departments of the subsidiary territories. Specifically, the chief officers of the subsidiary territories would be appointed by the territorial lord to oversee the overall situation. On the other hand, as the headquarters, the various departments of Shanghai Town would have a higher administrative level than the various departments of the subsidiary territories. They could supervise and guide the work of the various departments of the subsidiary territories. Between the two, the opinions of the chief officers of the subsidiary territories would be more important. If there was a conflict between the orders of both parties, the orders of the chief officers of the subsidiary territories would prevail. Of course, if the various departments of Shanghai Town felt that there was a problem with the orders of the chief officers of the subsidiary territories, they could look for the territorial lord, Ouyang Shuo, to judge. At the same time, in order to strengthen his control over the subsidiary territories, Ouyang Shuo had prepared 2 trump cards. One was the reporting system for major decisions. The major decisions of the subsidiary territories had to be reported to the higher-ups in the form of documents. They could only be implemented after approval. For this reason, he had to solve the problem of fast communication between the territories and build efficient relay stations. The second trump card was the power to appoint personnel. Ouyang Shua stipulated that the chief officers of the subsidiary territories only had the power to recommend them. The real power to appoint personnel was held by the higher-ups. Currently, it was in the hands of Ouyang Shua. After visiting Pool Village, Ouyang Shua returned to the military camp. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there was finally news. The news brought back by the Military Intelligence Department made him both surprised and happy. The scouts of the Military Intelligence Department tracked them all the way until they found the barbarian mountain village. However, they did not find any traces of the garrison. At this time, Buttface, who was leading the team, decisively split the scouts into two. Lung Qian, the deputy director, led the elite team and sneaked into the forest near the mountain village. They took the opportunity to gather information about the barbarian mountain village. Buttface led another group of people and secretly kidnapped a member of the outpost of the stronghold. He was trying to gather information by force. After interrogating the outpost member, Buttface was both happy and worried. It turned out that when Zhang Dinyo and his team tracked them to the mountain village, they did not do a good job in their investigation and barged into the mountain barbarians' encirclement. Luckily, Zhang Dinyo was calm. He saw that the difference in strength between them and the enemy was too big. He did not resist blindly, but chose to pretend to surrender and wait for the mountain sea town's main force to rescue him. Buttface remembered Ouyang Shua's instructions before he left. He sent the captured outpost back to the mountain sea town and greeted them with goodwill. He expressed his willingness to settle the issue of the captives peacefully. He could state any conditions. As they waited anxiously, the mountain sea town finally replied. They expressed that they could send the captives back on the condition that the Lord of Mountain Sea Town came personally. It turned out that after Zhang Dinyo was captured, he deliberately revealed information about Mountain Sea Town to the barbarians. He told the mountain barbarians that what they found yesterday was a newly established subsidiary village of Mountain Sea Town. The base was on the other side of the river and had a strong regular army. Then, the captured outpost was sent back to the mountain village. The mountain barbarian lord gathered the information from the two of them and finally decided to meet the lord, Ouyang Shua. Chapter 81. Since the mountain barbarian leader wanted him to personally make a trip to the stronghold, Ouyang Shua naturally wouldn't refuse. He still had this bit of courage and confidence. Of course, he was not stupid enough to go alone. A gentleman would not stand under a collapsing wall. Early the next morning, Ouyang Shua led the infantry platoon to the barbarian mountain village under the guidance of a spy from the Military Intelligence Division. After leaving the military camp, they crossed the plains and entered the forest in less than half an hour. After entering the forest, the army's speed slowed down significantly. The ground was covered with rotten leaves and vines, making it extremely difficult to move forward. Ouyang Shua had no choice but to dismount and walk. Fortunately, the guide was experienced and had left marks along the way, so they wouldn't get lost in the mountains. After walking for a full 2 hours, the scout finally reported that the stronghold was 2 kilometers ahead. Ouyang Shua ordered his troops to rest and reorganize, waiting patiently. Sure enough, Lung Qian arrived with his team in less than 20 minutes. As for Buttface and his group, they were already under the surveillance of the mountain barbarians, so it was inconvenient for them to meet. After the greetings, Lung Qian began to report the information he had gathered on the barbarians, saying, "There are more than 3,000 barbarians in the entire mountain village, and most of them are young and strong. Because they lived in the deep mountains and forests all year round, the mountain barbarians' lifespan was not long. It was very difficult for them to live past 40 years, and the survival rate of children was also very low. Their average lifespan was only 25 years. The mountain barbarians lived by hunting, and they would occasionally pick wild fruits to fill their stomachs. The leader of a village was usually the leader of the hunting team. Only the strongest hunter in the village could take on this role. There's also a shaman in the village who knows a little about medicine. He's the oldest and wisest person in the village, and he's also the one in charge. There are nearly 100 barbarian tribes in this area. The tribes were clearly demarcated by their hunting areas. The tribe we encounter now is called the Mystic Bird tribe. With the mystic bird as its totem, it can only be considered a medium-sized tribe. It was said that in the depths of the mountains, there were large tribes with tens of thousands of people. The leader of the tribe was called Stone Bear. He got his name from hunting a black bear alone. The shamans of the tribe don't have names. They are respectfully called great shamans. Ouyang Shua listened attentively. Lung Qian's intelligence-gathering ability did not disappoint him. In just one day, he had obtained such detailed information. Let's go take a look at this mystic bird tribe. He ordered the team to advance. In less than half an hour, the troops arrived near the stronghold. Seeing Ouyang Shua's group, the sentries on the outskirts of the stronghold immediately became vigilant and loudly shouted, "Who are you? State your name." "I'm the lord of the Shanghai town. I've come to pay a visit at the invitation of your superior." Ouyang Shua replied loudly. There was a commotion at the outpost. A small black bird perched on the shoulder of one of the sentries. The sentinel said a few words to the little bird, and the little bird rose into the air, flying straight towards the village. Ouyang Shua smiled bitterly and shook his head when he saw this. No wonder Zhang Dainiu fell into the ambush. The Mystic Bird tribe had such a powerful investigative tool, so it was not an injustice for them to lose. This inconspicuous little black bird was clearly more intelligent than a carrier pigeon. Not only did it know the way, but it could also understand human language. He guessed that this little bird was the descendant of the tribe's totem, the Mystic Bird. 15 minutes later, the bird flew back from the stronghold and chirped at the sentinel. Other than the sentinel, no one else understood. "Sir, the lord of the Shanghai town can only bring 2 attendants into the stronghold. The rest must wait outside," the sentinel said loudly. "How can we do that? We must follow and protect the Lord's safety." Zhao Xiu couldn't help but shout before Ouyang Shua could speak. "This is the Lord's order. We must do as he says." The sentinel was expressionless. Zhao Xiu wanted to continue arguing, but Ouyang Shua stopped him and said with a smile, "Since that's the case, Captain Zhao and Wang Feng will follow me." Wang Feng was Lin Yu's eldest disciple, and he had just been appointed as the first squad leader of the infantry platoon. "Sir, this is too dangerous. Why don't we just bring some people and flatten this lousy stronghold? Let's see if they still dare to put on airs with us." Zhao Sihu was obviously still worried. "Yes, sir, it's not wise to go into danger alone." Lung Qian followed and advised. "You don't need to advise him. I believe that the Lord of the Stone Bear tribe is not such a reckless person. The barbarians have always been forthright. If they really want to deal with us, they will use force. They definitely won't be so despicable," Ouyang Shua said. Seeing that they couldn't persuade him, the generals could only give up. Long Qian turned around and shouted to the sentinel, "The people on the other side, listen up. If anything happens to our lord, the Shanghai town will definitely send a large army to attack and flatten the stronghold." When the sentinel heard Lung Qian's threat, he coldly snorted and didn't reply. Ouyang Shua didn't pay attention to him. He brought Zhao Sihu and Wang Feng with him and followed behind the sentinel, walking toward the stronghold. After entering the stronghold, the sentinel who led the way returned the way he came, and another mountain barbarian led the way. Along the way, Ouyang Shua looked at the scenery of the barbarian's stronghold with great interest. He even conversed with Zhao Sihu and Wang Feng from time to time. The barbarian stronghold had distinct characteristics of the barbarians. It was simple, sturdy, and rough. When the mountain barbarians on the side of the road saw that these guests could still talk cheerfully and wittily at this time, they couldn't help but feel a bit of admiration. They were real men. No wonder they could be received by the Lord. Shi Xiong led the tribe's important members to welcome them at the entrance of the meeting hall. At least, he wasn't too rude. If Shi Xiong sat inside and was brought in like a criminal, then Ouyang Shua would have to reevaluate the importance of the Mystic Bird tribe to the Shanghai town. "Guests from afar, welcome to the Mystic Bird tribe," Shi Xiong said in a loud voice. Ouyang Shua faintly smiled and said in admiration, "Thank you for your invitation, Lord. You let me experience the barbarians' sightseeing. It really has a special flavor." Shi Xiong's expression relaxed, and he said with a bit of enthusiasm, "Please, please." Ouyang Shuo followed behind Shi Xiong and walked toward the meeting hall. After both parties sat down, Shi Xiong didn't bother with pleasantries. He directly said, "Lord of the Shanghai town, yesterday your subordinates said that they want to cooperate with our Mystic Bird tribe. I'd like to hear the details. Respected senior leader, I've come here to make friends. Regardless of whether the cooperation is successful or not, the Shanghai town will give your tribe 100,000 units of food for free." Ouyang Shuo first gave the other party a carrot. The other party immediately became restless after he said this. 100,000 units of food, supplemented by hunting and wild fruits, was enough to sustain the Mystic Bird tribe for 2 to 3 months. Such a generous offer immediately won the favor of the group of men. They no longer looked at Ouyang Shuo with hostility. Shi Xiong was also very shocked, but as the Lord, he didn't lose his composure. "Thank you for the gift from the Shanghai town. The Mystic Bird tribe is very grateful. There are 3 main ways to cooperate this time. Please take a look. The first way is for your tribe to go down the mountain and settle down in the Pool Village. The second way is for your tribe to choose warriors to serve the Shanghai town army, and the Shanghai town will give you a salary. The third way is for your tribe to help the Shanghai town find and mine ores, and the Shanghai town will give you a salary." Ouyang Shuo threw out the 3 barbarians' plans. The Mystic Bird tribe has lived here for generations, and it's hard to move. It's hard to go down the mountain and settle down. Shi Xiong first rejected the first way. Ouyang Shuo nodded. This was completely within his expectations. If there wasn't a suitable opportunity, it would be impossible for the mountain barbarians to move out of the forest and settle down on the plains. Settling down couldn't be forced, so they could only take it slow. "I wonder how much is the salary in the Shanghai town army?" Shi Xiong continued to ask. Ouyang Shuo heaved a sigh of relief. The big fish had finally taken a bait. Ordinary soldiers are paid according to their strength. In terms of rations, the lowest is 10 units of rations, and the highest is 90 units of rations. With the standard of your tribe's warriors, you can get at least 50 units of rations every month. Shi Xiong nodded and didn't rush to express his position. He continued to ask, "As for the third way of cooperation, please explain in detail." "Of course. From what I know, there are gold, silver, and many other rare ores in this area. If your tribe can find these ores, the Shanghai town will give you rations as remuneration." Ouyang Shuo knew that in his previous life, Ba Dao had found a gold mine through the mountain barbarians and obtained the original capital to rise quickly. "Please take a seat. We need to discuss." After Shi Xiong finished speaking, he arranged for the tribe members to accompany Ouyang Shuo and the other 2 in the meeting hall, while he went to the backyard alone. The Grand Wizard of the Mystic Bird tribe was in the backyard. Shi Xiong naturally didn't dare to make a decision on such a big matter. The discussion was just to fool Ouyang Shuo. His real purpose was to consult the Grand Wizard in the backyard. After listening to Shi Xiong's report, the Grand Wizard was silent. After a long time, he said, "This Shanghai town's lord is also a wise man. 3 months ago, I received a dream from the Mystic Bird. He said that not long after, mutants will descend from the heavens with sharp blades in their hands to open up the wilderness. The Mystic Bird said that these mutants could be the opportunity for our tribe to prosper or the source of our tribe's destruction. We have to investigate them. In that case, I'll drive them away." Shi Xiong said, "Don't be so rash. This lord came with the sincerity of cooperation. He might be able to help us get out of this predicament. We can send some warriors to join the Shanghai town's army and observe them. As for the matter of the ores, we have to hurry and find them. They might be able to solve the food crisis." The Grand Wizard was obviously not as conservative as Shi Xiong. "Yes, Grand Wizard, in your opinion, how many warriors should we send? The first batch of warriors shouldn't have too many, but we have to choose the elites. We can't be sloppy. Let's use 200 as the standard. In addition, Shi, who is quick-witted and brave, let him follow us out of the mountains to gain experience." The Grand Wizard said decisively. Ouyang Shuo had specially pointed out that the soldiers' salary was linked to their strength. He didn't want a Mystic Bird tribe to send some weak people to make up the numbers. It was indeed effective. Yes, Shi Xiong said excitedly. Shi, whose strength was also one of the best in the hunting team. He was also the person who posed the greatest threat to his position as the Lord. Now that the Grand Wizard had sent Shi Hu to the Shanghai town, he was naturally happy. Chapter 82. After Shi Xiong left, Shi Hu, who was mentioned earlier, walked out from the side and said respectfully, "Grand Wizard, do you have any instructions for me to go to Shanghai town?" "Shi Hu, you don't have to think too much. After you go to Shanghai town, you have to treat yourself as a part of it. You have to be loyal to the Lord and don't be disloyal. I have a hunch that the Lord will be the future master of the entire Lian province basin. It's the opportunity for our tribe to prosper." The Grand Wizard was obviously reserved about Shi Xiong. Shi Xiong is too conservative. He has more than enough defense, but not enough development. You're different. You've been quick-witted since you were young and are more receptive to new things. This trip to Shanghai town is a rare opportunity for both you and the tribe. Do you understand? The Grand Wizard continued. Understood. Shi Hu nodded his head. Very good. Go and get ready. Pick the most elite warriors. Don't let down the Mystic Bird tribe. Yes, sir. Shi Hu said goodbye and left. In the meeting hall in the front yard, Shi Xiong conveyed the Grand Wizard's decision to Ouyang Shuo. Ouyang Shuo was very satisfied after listening. The results of this cooperation had exceeded his expectations. "Commander, it's been a pleasure working with you," Ouyang Shuo said with a smile. "It's been a pleasure working with you." After reaching an agreement, Shi Xiong ordered his men to release Zhang Dainiu and his men. After being locked up for a day, the members of the garrison had suffered a lot. They were all dirty and did not have the image of a soldier from Shanghai town at all. When they saw Ouyang Shuo, they were all ashamed. Zhang Dainiu took the lead and knelt down. He said in a deep voice, "I made a mistake in command and did not fight well. I've damaged the prestige of Shanghai town. Please punish me, sir." The members of the garrison followed suit and knelt down. They said loudly, "Please punish us, sir." Ouyang Shuo did not have a good attitude toward this garrison. He said coldly, "Get up, all of you. Haven't you embarrassed yourselves enough? I'll punish you when we get back." Yes. Under Zhang Dainiu's lead, they left the village and met up with the infantry platoon outside. As it was close to noon, Ouyang Shuo stayed at the Mystic Bird tribe for lunch at Shi Xiong's invitation. Compared to Shanghai town, the food at the Mystic Bird tribe could not be compared. However, the smoked meat, pickled vegetables, and all kinds of wild game and unknown insect had a unique flavor. After lunch, the 200 warriors had already been selected. Under Shi Hu's lead, they lined up in the village's plaza. Knowing that these warriors were about to go on a long journey, the families of the warriors came out to see them off. Whether it was the people who were about to leave or the people who were sending them off, there was not much sadness on their faces. The leader had said that the families of the soldiers would be given priority in receiving food subsidies. For mountain barbarians who often didn't even have enough to eat, there was nothing more important than food. Reporting to Lord, Shi Hu has led the tribe's 200 warriors to assemble. Please inspect them. Shi Hu said loudly when he saw Ouyang Shuo. Ouyang Shuo nodded. He suddenly had a good impression of this young barbarian. Brother Shi, you've worked hard. I promise that you won't let everyone down in the Shanghai town. Before he left, Shi Xiong ran over with a wooden box in his arms, saying, "Because of his health, the great shaman is unable to see guests. I've been ordered to bring you a gift. Please accept it. Thank you, great shaman, for your gift. I hope that if there's an opportunity in the future, I can pay my respects to great shaman," Ouyang Shuo said with a smile, gesturing for Wang Feng to come forward and receive the wooden box. "All right, I'll definitely bring Lord's greetings to great shaman. Then, farewell." Ouyang Shuo didn't delay any further. After bidding farewell to the leader, he immediately led the troops and left. After meeting up with the troops outside the village, he ordered everyone to hurry up and return to the Shanghai town as soon as possible. At 4 in the afternoon, the troops returned to the pool village. Seeing that everyone had returned safely, Chief Zhao Daxian finally heaved a sigh of relief. What happened this time really made him sweat profusely. The first thing Ouyang Shuo did when he returned was to announce the punishment for the garrison team. Zhang Daniu's salary would be forfeited for half a year, each fire chief's salary would be forfeited for 3 months, and the ordinary soldier's salary would be forfeited for 1 month. As the saying goes, a fall into the pit, a gain in your wit. I hope that all of you will remember this lesson and train even harder. Strive to change your occupation as soon as possible and protect the pool village for me. Ouyang Shuo reprimanded. We won't disappoint Lord's expectations. As the saying goes, knowing shame makes one brave. Since the garrison team had suffered such a huge loss, they were naturally eager to prove themselves. Ouyang Shuo didn't plan to let the garrison team stay idle. He ordered Zhang Daniu to start investigating the roving bandits in the pool village. Once they found any, they wouldn't show any mercy. Of course, if they found a large group of roving bandits, they couldn't act recklessly and had to seek help from the Shanghai town immediately. Originally, Zhang Daniu was prepared to be relieved of his position. He didn't expect Lord to just let him off lightly and still trust him so much. This made him very touched. After settling the matters of the garrison team, Ouyang Shuo spent 100 gold coins to purchase 100,000 units of rations through the pool village's intermediate market. According to his agreement with Shi Xiong, the Mystic Bird tribe would arrange for people to transport this batch of rations away the next morning. Seeing that Ouyang Shuo had fulfilled his promise in time, Shi Hu and the rest were even more relieved, thinking that with this batch of rations, they would be able to greatly alleviate the tribe's food crisis and their families wouldn't have to starve anymore. Everyone was full of energy. After that, Ouyang Shuo didn't stay in the pool village. He led the troops back to the Shanghai town. Before he left 50 gold coins for Zhao Dexin to use for the garrison team's job change. Fan Zhongyan led a group of chief officers and waited for Ouyang Shuo and the rest at the pier. After seeing them, he smiled and said, "Lord, you've been gone for 2 days. The territory seemed to have lost its backbone. You're finally back. Haha, I'm very relieved to have you here." Although there were many twists and turns this time, it was a worthwhile trip. Along the way, Ouyang Shuo briefly introduced the cooperation agreement he had with the Mystic Bird tribe to the 3 division chiefs. Then, he smiled and said to Tian Wenjing, "I'll have to trouble Division Chief Tian about the cooperation on rare minerals. In my opinion, we can consider arranging for a few miners to go to the Mystic Bird tribe to help them search for mineral resources. We're still more professional in this aspect." Tian Wenjing nodded. "Lord, rest assured, I'll definitely settle this matter well." After returning to the Shanghai town, Ouyang Shuo let everyone disperse. He brought his troops to the military camp and immediately changed the 200 barbarian mountain warriors to infantry. There is no need to go through the militia's job change stage in the high-class military camp's secret room. They could directly change to soldiers. After the job change, Ouyang Shuo was left with 75 gold coins and became a poor man again. He took this opportunity to summon all the officers above the rank of division chief to the military camp's meeting hall and said, "I'll first announce a few personnel appointments. I'll appoint Shi Hu as the acting 2nd Infantry Platoon leader and Wang Feng as the acting 3rd Infantry Platoon leader." Shi Hu and Wang Feng stepped forward and said loudly, "Thank you, Lord, for your promotion. We won't let you down." As the Mountain Barbarian representative, Shi Hu's appointment went smoothly. However, Wang Feng had been appointed as a squad leader as soon as he joined the army. In just a few days, he was appointed as a platoon leader. It could be said that he had reached the heavens in one step. This wasn't because Ouyang Shuo was biased, but because as Lin Yu's favorite disciple, Wang Feng had the ability. Ouyang Shuo could even imagine that once Wang Feng became a junior general, he would be even more powerful than Zhao Sihu. One had to know that Wang Feng had received the true teachings of the 8 Extremities Fist. Of course, as a general, martial arts was only one of the aspects. However, one had to admit that martial arts still played a large part in the evaluation of basic officers. The squad leaders of the two platoons will be recommended by the platoon leaders and reported to General Shi for approval. Ouyang Shuo had long since delegated the power to appoint squad leaders and no longer planned to interfere. Previously, he had arranged for Lin Yu's 5 disciples to serve in the infantry platoons under special circumstances. Understood. Hui Biao. Dear, I appoint you as the squad leader of the 1st Infantry Platoon. Hui Biao was a 25-year-old man. He had performed outstandingly in the previous battle against the water bandits. This could be considered a late reward. Thank you for your recommendation, sir. I will not disappoint you. After adjusting the infantry, Ouyang Shuo continued to adjust the cavalry. Li Mingyang, here, I order you to be in charge of forming the 2nd Cavalry Platoon. Once the funds are in, immediately change your occupation. Yes, sir. As one of the first 3 squad leaders, Li Mingliang's ability was unquestionable. Arranging for him to form the 2nd Cavalry Platoon was equivalent to appointing him as the platoon leader of the 2nd Cavalry Platoon in advance. Liao Kai, here, I appoint you as the deputy squad leader of the 1st Cavalry Platoon and the squad leader of the 1st Cavalry Platoon. As a second-generation squad leader who was on par with Zhou Feng, Liao Kai's promotion was logical. Thank you for your recommendation, sir. I will not disappoint you. Guo Liang, here, I appoint you as the squad leader of the 1st Cavalry Platoon. Like Hu Biao, Guo Liang had performed outstandingly in the previous battle against the water bandits. The 2 of them were the representatives of the 3rd-generation squad leaders. Thank you for your recommendation, sir. I will not disappoint you. The 6 generals who had been promoted were all elite soldiers who had yet to change their occupation. Once they were all promoted to junior generals, the shortage of generals in Shanghai town would be greatly alleviated. After adjusting the personnel of the cavalry platoon, Ouyang Shuo dropped the last bomb. With 3 infantry platoons and 2 cavalry platoons as the foundation, formed the Shanghai town's infantry and cavalry mixed battalion. I appoint Shi Wansui as the battalion leader. Shi Wansui had finally gotten over the shadow of the previous battle against the roving bandits. He had regained Ouyang Shuo's trust and was now the commander of the Shanghai town's most powerful military force. He said excitedly, "Thank you for your trust, sir." According to the rules set by Ouyang Shuo, in order to maintain the territory's normal operations, the number of troops could not exceed 1/10 of the territory's population limit. In other words, a battalion was already the limit in the Level 2 township. There would be no more troops. However, the Lianzhou Basin was a flat terrain, which was more suitable for large-scale troops to fight. The current infantry and cavalry mixed battalion in Shanghai town was only a stopgap measure. In the end, they still had to form pure infantry and cavalry battalions. Chapter 83. After completing the reorganization of the army, Ouyang Shuo tossed out an extremely large military plan. This plan was one of the strategies he came up with to break the stalemate of the 6 lords of Handan. The appearance of the mountain barbarians allowed this plan to be carried out ahead of schedule. If the Shanghai town wanted to maintain its lead, it had to make full use of its advantages. Since he had already established such a powerful infantry and cavalry mixed battalion, he naturally could not let them hole up in the barracks. Ouyang Shuo looked at the generals and said, "I have a plan, and it's temporarily called the Spring Offensive Plan. Let's talk about it, and everyone can discuss and perfect it. Anyone can give their opinions." The entire plan was divided into 3 steps. The first step was to complete the reorganization of the army and form a fighting force. The second step was to clear out the roving bandits in the territory and eliminate the internal threat. The third step was to take the initiative to attack and exterminate the bandits outside the borders. The purpose of the spring offensive is to train the troops and accumulate wealth for the territory. The generals were obviously very interested in this military plan and eagerly asked, "Sir, can you explain it in more detail?" Ouyang Shuo nodded and said, "Today is the 9th of March. There's still about a month before the territory will be promoted to a 3rd-ranked town. We will draw up a detailed timetable within this time frame. The first step of the army reorganization had been completed. The next step was to train and break in. Let me ask you, how long will it take to complete the integration of the troops and form a fighting force? Sure Wansway thought for a moment and said, among the 5 companies of the mixed battalion, the 1st Cavalry Company was the first unit to be formed in the territory, so there's no problem. The 2nd Cavalry Squadron had not been formed yet, so it would take at least 5 days for the soldiers to be recruited and for them to be transferred to cavalry. The 3 infantry squadrons all had a certain amount of combat experience. What I'm worried about is that the mountain barbarians of the 2nd and 3rd platoons have been living in the jungle for a long time, so they're not familiar with fighting on the plains. They also need some time to adapt to military discipline. There's also the language barrier and the problem of cooperating with the 1st Infantry Platoon. I believe that we need at least a week to get used to each other. Sure Wansue's analysis was generally accurate, but it wasn't comprehensive. Ouyang Shuo reminded him, General, don't forget that there's still the issue of the cooperation between the troops. First, the infantry platoon and the cavalry platoon had to work together. Second, they had to take care of the Navy stationed in North Seatown. This spring offensive would mobilize all the military forces in the territory. If necessary, he could order the Navy and the garrison of the Pool Village to join in and assist in suppressing the bandits. Against the pirates, the Navy of North Seatown can play a more important role. Sir, you are right. Sure Wansway said shamefully. Ouyang Shuo waved his hand and continued. Therefore, I gave the troops 10 days to train and get used to each other. There are 2 things I need to do in these 10 days. Sir, please speak. The first thing is to raise the transfer fees for the 2nd Cavalry Squadron. Let me tell you the truth. The territory is out of funds. You'll need to think of a solution on your own. If he had no money or food, he would ask for it from the bandits. We'll leave this to cavalry and infantry. Ouyang Shuo said as he looked at Lin, Yi, and Zhao Sihu. Don't worry, sir. We will definitely complete the mission. The 2 of them stepped forward and said loudly. Ouyang Shuo nodded and looked at Buttface and Lung Qian of the Military Intelligence Department. The second thing is to do a good job in gathering intelligence. In order to strengthen the military intelligence, I have decided to expand the military intelligence to 50 people. You must do a good job in selecting and training personnel. Yes, the 2 of them said excitedly. Also, don't disturb Lei Sun. Let him continue to follow the Cyan Beetle Horse mission. Ouyang Shuo added. Lei Sun was another capable general of the Military Intelligence Department. He was as famous as Long Qian. He had been working with the Resource Department to capture the Cyan Beetle Horses. Buttface nodded to show that he understood. The second step is to suppress the bandits within the territory. I don't need to say much. I will only give you 1 week. Do you have the confidence to complete the mission? Ouyang Shuo said loudly. Yes. Very good. The next step is the last and most important step. Suppress the bandits outside the territory. Compared to the territory, the environment outside the territory is more dangerous and complicated. The logistics are more difficult. You must be fully prepared. I don't want to lose your lives before you get the benefits. This step was undoubtedly a more radical and risky one. The reason why Ouyang Shuo made this decision was because he hoped that the troops could get used to this kind of long-distance battle as soon as possible and accumulate experience for future territory battles. As for the monetary gains, it was just a side effect. The generals all expressed their determination to fight this battle. You have 2 weeks to carry out the battle outside the territory. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of results you can achieve, Ouyang Shuo said in the end. Please rest assured, sir. We will definitely complete the mission. It was already 6 o'clock at night when he left the military camp. Ouyang Shuo quickly returned to the Lord's mansion and went offline. He walked out of the game capsule and picked up his phone. There were 2 missed calls from Song Jiao last night. At that time, he had just logged into the game. Ouyang Shuo then remembered that he had forgotten to set up the notification function in the game capsule. At noon, Ouyang Shuo took the time to call Song Jia. Beautiful lady, I'm sorry. I didn't get your call last night. On the other end of the phone, Song Jia was sitting on the sofa in the living room. She said coquettishly, Busy man? What have you been busy with recently? You didn't even pick up my call. Cough. Don't make fun of me. I'm unemployed now. All right. Why did you call me yesterday? Ouyang Shuan knew that talking to a girl like this would make him dumbfounded, but he had no choice. In order to divert Song Jia's attention, he had to go all out. As expected, Song Jia said unhappily, "What? Can't I call you if there's nothing?" "No, you know that's not what I meant." Ouyang Shua could only pretend to be pitiful. Seeing Ouyang Shua's pitiful look, Song Jia's mood improved. She said with a smile, "Forget it. I won't tease you anymore. Let me ask you something. Have you heard a game called Earth on One? Song Jia's expression became a little nervous when she mentioned the game. Her voice trembled a little. Ouyang Shua was shocked. Sure enough, the incident with Sun Xiaoya's grandfather had already made him suspect that the secret of the game had begun to spread to the medium-sized forces. Hearing Song Jia's question, he was already 100% sure. The Song family was also a big family in Lingnan. It wasn't strange for them to know about this news. But how should he explain it to Song Jia? Song Jia must have received the news in the past 2 days. Once she got the news, she disregarded the family's request to keep it confidential and took the risk to tell him the news. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't touched. Song Jia saw Ouyang Shua's expression change in the video. She asked hesitantly, "Why? Have you heard of this game?" "Yes. Not only that, I've also participated in the closed beta test of this game." Ouyang Shua finally decided to tell such a beautiful lie. Song Jia's heart relaxed. In this way, she didn't reveal the family secret. She curiously looked at Ouyang Shua and teasingly said, "I didn't expect you to be so secretive. What's your ID? I'll find you in the game of play." Sure enough, he couldn't escape this question. Fortunately, he already had a plan. He deliberately said with difficulty, "Because I signed a confidentiality agreement, I can't tell anyone about my game ID. But if you have any questions about the game, you can call me at any time. I'll try my best to answer them." Everything about the closed beta test was highly confidential by the federal government. Song Jia wouldn't know that the so-called confidentiality agreement was only limited to the period of the closed beta test. There was also no rule that said he couldn't tell others about his ID. This was just Ouyang Shua's expedient measure. One day, he would clearly explain it to Song Jia. Song Jia believed him and cutely said, "Oh, I see. Sigh, I still want to play with you in the game. So boring. What class do you play?" "I play chivalrous. I'm determined to become a chivalrous woman of the generation. I'll wield my sword and fight for justice. I'll get rid of the evil and help the poor." How carefree. It was hard to tell that Song Jia, who is usually so goddess-like, was filled with an adventurous spirit. She was born into a rich family. Although she lived a life of luxury, there were many things that were beyond her control. The constraints of reality were so strong that she naturally had to let go of her nature in the game. People like Song Jia were positive and positive. There were even some people who looked very honest in reality, who lived by the rules for their entire lives. In the game, without the constraints of morality and law, they specialized in doing bad things. Their minds were already twisted. Of course, the 6 doors in the game wasn't jealous. As long as a player committed a crime, they would definitely be arrested by the 6 doors and thrown into prison. I didn't expect our great beauty to have such great ambitions. How about this? Tell me your ID and I'll prepare a gift for you in the game. It'll be the icing on the cake, Ouyang Shua said with a smile. That's more like it. I'm a pauper in the game. I don't even have the money to learn basic swordsmanship. As a closed beta player, I'll have to sponsor you. Hee. Song Jia didn't stand on ceremony with Ouyang Shua. She smiled and said, "Remember, my name in the game is like a dream." In his previous life, wasn't like a dream ranked 4th among the top 10 beauties in the China server? She was the only chivalrous woman among the top 10 beauties. She had many fans. It was really a case of meeting beauties but not knowing each other. After his Aunt Snow rose, Ouyang Shua had another famous gamer by his side. Why was he so miserable in his previous life? He missed all of them. Chapter 84. When he went online the next day, Ouyang Shua remembered that the Blackbird tribe had given him a gift. He didn't even open it to see what it was. He just asked Wang Feng to place it in his office. Greater than over equal to when he walked into the office. The wooden box was indeed on his desk. Ouyang Shuo opened the wooden box. There were 30 or so colorful silkworms inside. The bottom of the wooden box was covered with thick mulberry leaves. These silkworms were colorful. Ouyang Shuo carefully observed them. There were 7 colors: gold, purple, pink, blue, orange, red, and green. Each color had at least 2 silkworms. This was really a special gift. This kind of genetically mutated silkworms could only appear in the deep mountains. It was a gift from nature for the mountain barbarians to accidentally obtain it. Seeing these colorful silkworms, Ouyang Shuo remembered the colorful silkworm breeding technique manual dropped by the Wild Dog King during the monster attack. It could finally be put to use. Not only that, with these colorful silkworms, the mulberry garden, the textile factory, and the clothing factory, it formed a complete production chain from raw materials to the final product. According to modern economics, it would form a complete industrial chain. How could people not fantasize? Knowing that the gift was so precious, Ouyang Shuo broke out in a cold sweat. He secretly blamed Shi Xiong for being too rash and not telling him what was in the wooden box. If it wasn't for Ouyang Shuo's etiquette, he wouldn't have accepted the gift. Otherwise, if he had casually placed the wooden box into his storage pouch, these cute baby silkworms would have died. Fortunately, Wang Feng was very attentive. The young silkworm in the wooden box was completely unharmed as they traversed through the mountains. Ouyang Shuo couldn't sit still anymore. He called the gatekeeper and asked him to summon Mu Qingxi and the others to the meeting hall. In addition to the 3 division heads, there was also the Agriculture Division head Sun Yanong, the Supplies Division head Du Xiaolan, the Mulberry Garden manager Zhao Yud, the Textile Factory manager Ying Chui, and the Clothing Factory manager Wu Enai. Seeing such a big lineup, Zhao Yud and the others, who entered the mansion for the first time, were all nervous. Zhao Yud was slightly better. He was one of the first 10 farmers in Shanghai Village. He was originally a villager from Zhao family ditch. He and his younger brother Zhao Yukai were both fruit farmers. For a long time, they didn't have a place to use their skills. Now, the 2 brothers were in charge of the mulberry garden and the orchard. The textile factory's director, Ying Chui, was a 23-year-old senior weaver. Manager of the clothing workshop, Wu Enai, female, 25 years old, intermediate tailor, and also Mu Qingxi's most important partner. Ouyang Shuo sat on the chair and looked around. Ouyang Shuo really didn't know what to do with this little miser. Why was this girl becoming more and more like a miser? Even Ying Chui, who was sitting at the side, couldn't stand it anymore. She pulled the little girl to her side and blocked her little mouth, not letting her speak anymore. Ouyang Shuo helplessly said, "What do I want your clothing workshop for?" As you can see, from the mulberry garden producing mulberry leaves, to the silkworm rearing, to the textile factory using silk to weave silk, and finally to the clothing workshop using silk to sew clothes, the whole process involves the cooperation of many departments. The mulberry garden is under the management of the Department of Agriculture. The silkworm rearing is under the joint management of the Department of Resources and the Department of Agriculture. The textile factory is under the management of the Finance Department. And the clothing workshop is already a private industry. It's very complicated. Your Excellency, do you mean to set up a special department to coordinate the management? Tian Wenjing hesitantly asked as he thought of the previously established workshop. Ouyang Shuo shook his head and said no. If we set up a special department for every additional industrial chain, what will it look like? Not only will it not play a role in coordination, but it will also cause the organization to become bloated. Whether it's from an organizational establishment or from a management point of view, it's unreasonable and unscientific. Then what does Your Excellency mean? Tian Wenjing was somewhat confused. What I mean is that this matter doesn't necessarily need the government to take action. We can fully utilize the power of the people. Specifically speaking, we can set up a civil textile association, and the entire industry chain can become members of the association. We can set up a president, vice president, and secretary general. We can also set up a board of directors, which will be responsible for coordinating the industrial chain, formulating industrial exhibition plans, and guiding the production activities of the member units. Ouyang Shaw didn't beat around the bush and directly threw out his idea after careful consideration. This is a new idea. The three directors pondered. The other participants also understood in their hearts that the purpose of His Excellency gathering them here was to set up this so-called textile association. Ingyu was, after all, born in a business family, so she was the most receptive to this kind of association. She said with a smile, "I agree with Big Brother's idea. What do you think about the personnel arrangement of the textile association?" The others also looked at Ouyang Shuo with concern. Ouyang Shuo didn't disappoint them and directly said, "For the first time, I'll overstep my authority and make the decision for you. After the association starts operating normally, you can elect the members yourself, and the government won't interfere. The members of the board of directors include Mu Qingxi, Sun Yanong, Du Xiaolan, Zhao Yud, Ying Shui, Wu Enai, and the appointed silkworm rearing manager. For the record, government officials like Sun Yanong and Du Xiaolan can only play a guiding role in the association. They can't participate in the election of the president, vice president, and secretary general." Sun Yanong and Du Xiaolan nodded to show that they understood. The president of the Textile Association will be Ying Shui, and Mu Qingxi will be the honorary president. Wu and I will be the vice president, and the future silkworm rearing manager will be the secretary general. Ouyang Shuo continued. When Qing heard that she was given the title of honorary president, which was both impressive and didn't need to do any work, she felt very happy. Big Brother really understands me. Ying Shui was a little surprised that she was pushed to the position of president. She nervously said, "Yes, sir. I'm afraid that I won't do well." Ouyang Shuo waved his hand. "Don't be too modest, Director Ying. Take your time. I still believe in you." Ying Shui nodded and didn't say anything. None of the people present would have thought that such a simple and crude association would play an important role in the future economic activities of the territory. It would become a force that couldn't be ignored, and it would become a flag of the territory. After dealing with the Textile Association, Ouyang Shuo took some time to go to the market to prepare a gift for Songjia. He first opened the skill book section and bought basic internal skill, basic movement skill, basic sword skill, and basic detection for a total of 1 gold coin. Then, he flipped to the special items section and searched for sword skills. Free Cloud Sword Skill, Shi Sword Skill, Golden Snake Sword Skill, Dharma Sword Skill, and Wind Brushing Willow Sword Skill all popped up. Ouyang Shuo directly ignored them. None of these sword skills were real. In the end, he made up his mind and spent 50 gold coins to buy the Yu Maiden Sword Skill. This was the real secret skill. After coming out of the market, Ouyang Shuo rushed to the arsenal and took out the only gold-level fine iron sword he had seized from the water bandits. He also picked out a set of silver-level leather armor. Finally, Ouyang Shuo anonymously mailed these skill books, secret skills, weapons, and equipment, along with 10 gold coins in cash to Songjia. Just the mailing fee alone cost 1 gold coin. With these things, Songjia could be considered to be armed. As long as she could level up, she would become a powerful swordsman, which was enough to make up for the 2-month gap in late Login 6. Chapter 85. In the outskirts of Chuanzhou, a group of young men and women were leveling. In the group, there were warriors such as generals, knights, and bailiffs. At the same time, there were healers and Taoist priests. It was a standard leveling team. Generals were similar to knights in the West. Without a mount, they could only walk on their 2 legs like warriors. Knights were standard warriors. No matter if they were swordsmen or machetes, they were good at close combat. Bailiffs were a profession with Chinese characteristics. The weapons they used were water and fire sticks and iron chains. Healers didn't have any healing skills. Instead, they were more of a battlefield doctor's role, focusing on first aid. Taoist priests didn't know magic either. They used talismans as their main attack, similar to Western mages. This group of people were wearing coarse hemp clothes given by the system. They were holding the cheapest white-grade weapons. 5 people working together to kill a level 3 wild dog was a bit difficult. The team didn't have good teamwork, so they were often in danger. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that this was a group of new players. After spending a lot of effort, the team finally killed the wild dog. Everyone got a pitiful few dozen experience points according to their contributions. The healer bandaged the injured bailiffs. The Taoist priest went up to collect the wild dog's fur. The party leader was a young general in his mid-20s. He looked a little domineering and arrogant, and he held a bronze-ranked iron spear in his hand. It was also the best weapon in the party. He smiled bitterly and said, "Oh my, this lousy game is just too realistic. Leveling up is so tiring. God knows how long it will take to level up. Yeah, I don't know when Big Brother will get a village creation order. I heard that after building a territory with the help of the militia, leveling will be much easier," the beautiful young knight said. The entire party was formed with these two as the core. The others were just assisting them in leveling. It's easier said than done. It's our fault that we entered the game too late. I heard that the first 10,000 players who chose to build a territory can directly get a village creation order. Now we can only try our luck and see which gold farming group has extra village creation orders. The young general obviously didn't have any expectations. Just as the female swordsman was about to reply, the sound of a system notification rang in her ears. System notification. You have an anonymous package. Do you want to accept it? Anonymous package? The female swordsman's heart skipped a beat. She quickly glanced at her surroundings. After confirming that it was safe, she said, "Accept." A white light flashed, and a huge bag appeared on the ground. It was wrapped in sackcloth, and it was impossible to see what was inside. The female swordsman did not plan to look at it. She immediately put the parcel into her storage bag. "Who sent you this package? It looks like there are a lot of things in it," the young general asked curiously. The female swordsman glanced at the items in the bag and was shocked. She then pretended as if nothing had happened and said, "Second brother, let's go back to the Chuanzhou prefecture first. It's not safe here." The female swordsman was obviously very alert. After all, they were in the wilderness, and murders and robberies were common occurrences. It was not a good place to check a bag. "All right, let's go back." The young man knew that this little sister has always had a sense of propriety and wouldn't speak without thinking. This package was definitely not ordinary. The group returned to the Quanzhou prefecture. This was a temporarily rented courtyard house. There were all kinds of people going in and out of the courtyard. At a glance, there were no less than 200 people. "Second brother, third sister, why did you come back so early today?" In the courtyard house, a young scholar in his late 20s asked curiously when he saw the few people who had returned early. "Big brother, let's talk in the room," the young general said. "Okay." The young scholar could tell that something was amiss. He immediately led the two into the secret room. After entering the secret room, the young general became much more casual. He smiled and said, "Little sister, take out the package. Why are you acting so mysterious? Just what kind of good stuff is it? Let me broaden my horizons." I guarantee that it will blind you. Don't be envious after you see it." The female swordsman also became mischievous. She took out the package from her storage bag and placed it on the table in the middle of the room. You're underestimating your second brother," the young general said as he walked over and opened the package. Immediately, a large pile of items appeared before the three of them. There were skill books, secret manuals, weapons, equipment, and 10 gold coins. Looking at the pile of items, the young general was dumbfounded. Even the calm young scholar could not help but exclaim, "Third sister, who gave this to you? Why are they so generous?" The female swordsman was naturally Song Jia. Her name was like a dream in the game. The two in front of her were her real brothers. They were also the representatives of the Song Consortium in the game. One of them was a scholar, while the other was a warrior. The older brother, Song Won, chose the territory construction mode, while the younger brother, Song Wu, chose the individual adventure mode. This courtyard house was the temporary stronghold of the Song Consortium in the game. The 200 or so players in the courtyard were either members of the Song Consortium or professional players that they had spent a lot of money to recruit in real life. This is a secret. Don't worry about it," Song Jia said proudly. Song Wu picked up the fine, iron sword and drooled. He said enviously, "Oh my god, this is a gold-grade weapon. Currently, Only the leaders of the top 10 mercenary groups have top-notch weapons. Little sister, you're just a level 2 gamer. It's a waste to have this weapon. Hee hee, second brother, you're just jealous. Songwoo picked up the leather armor set and exclaimed again. Oh my god, a silver grade set. Sob, I'm wearing coarse linen clothes. Songwoo was clearly hurt. Compared to the equipment in front of him, he was like a beggar. Songjia stood at the side and watched her second brother show off with a smile. Her heart was filled with sweetness. She was obviously very satisfied with the gift Ouyang Shua had prepared for her. Songwon picked up the Yu Maiden Swordplay manual and said calmly, Second brother, you really don't know what's good for you. The value of this swordplay manual is definitely not lower than that gold-grade fine iron sword. A rough estimate is that this batch of items is worth at least 200 gold coins. Third sister, are you really not going to say anything to big brother? Actually, how could Songwon know what's good for him? This swordplay manual, after Gaia announced the secret of the real and fake manuals a year later, will be hard to find even with money. It was only now that such a real manual was listed on the material trading platform at a low price that no one was interested in. If it wasn't for the fact that Ouyang Shua didn't have any spare cash on hand, he would have started sweeping up the goods on the market. Wow, it's so valuable. Although Song Jiao wasn't as sensitive to the price of items as her brother, Songwon, she still had an intuitive understanding of the value of gold coins. With the current market price of 1 copper coin for 2 credits, 200 gold coins was equivalent to 400 million credits, and there was no market for it. Ouyang Shua, what kind of person are you? You're so ordinary in real life, but you can give me such an expensive item in the game so casually. You even said that it was a greeting gift for me when I first entered the game. That means you must be extraordinary in the game. Third sister. Big brother, sorry about that. I was distracted. Songjia blushed slightly. Big brother, don't ask about this, friend. I promise to keep it secret. Forget it. Big brother won't force you. Just have fun. Songwon doted on this sister a lot. Seeing that she wasn't willing to talk, he didn't force her. It wasn't a bad thing anyway. Thank you, big brother. Songjia couldn't hold back any longer. She impatiently learned the 4 skill books and the Yu Maiden Swordsmanship Manual. She then put on her leather armor, picked up her fine iron sword, and made a sword dance. Her valiant and heroic image of a heroine was fixed on the paper, making Songwoo drool. This Yu Maiden Swordsmanship Manual is really unusual. After learning it, my mind is filled with sword techniques. It's like it's real, Songjia said doubtfully. Maybe it's because the game is too realistic, giving you such an illusion. Of course, Songwon didn't know the truth of the secret manual, so he could only make such a guess. Although Songjia didn't agree with her brother's explanation, she didn't mind. She picked up the 10 gold coins on the table and handed them to Songwon, smiling, Big brother, you can keep the gold coins. Songwon was very pleased with this sensible sister of his. He patted her head and said dotingly, Since it's a gift from your friend, you should keep it for yourself. Even if the family has 10 gold coins, it won't affect the overall situation. Your equipment won't be cheap to repair, so how can you not have some money on you? Your friend is a meticulous person and has considered everything. It's not unreasonable for him to send 10 gold coins. Songjia didn't think too much about it. After hearing her brother's analysis, she felt that it made sense, so she didn't force him. Who would have thought that Blockhead would be so meticulous? If it's convenient, you can ask your friend if he can get a village creation order. We'll buy it for a high price, Songwon joked. These past few days, he had been worrying so much about the village creation order. Without a village creation order, it was impossible to establish a territory. Without a territory, the Song Empire Financial Group wouldn't be able to establish a foothold in the game. This was undoubtedly a failure. Okay, I'll ask. Songjia seemed to understand her brother's situation very well, so she readily agreed. After all, that Blockhead had said that if she had any questions, she could call him at any time. But I can't guarantee that he'll be able to get it, Songjia said with uncertainty. It's fine, I'm just saying. It'd be great if he could get it, but it'd be normal if he couldn't. Evidently, Songwon didn't have high expectations. Chapter 86. Of course, Ouyang Shua didn't know that the ordinary gift in his eyes had caused so much discussion among the three Song siblings. This was the difference in strength. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Ouyang Shua brought the three directors to inspect the city wall. After a month of construction, the main part of the city wall had been completed. All that was left was the gate tower, arrow tower, corner tower, suspension bridge, and other ancillary facilities. The 9-meter-high and 5-meter-wide stone city wall looked magnificent and gave people a sense of security. Climbing up the northern city wall, Ouyang Shua gazed into the distance. Whether it was the plains, the mountains, or the rivers, they all belonged to Shanghai town. Ouyang Shua's mind was broadened, and he was filled with lofty aspirations. Good. The construction department supervised the construction of the city wall and did a good job. They should be rewarded. Ouyang Shua turned to look at Cui Yingyu. The finance department will draft a reward standard and submit it to me for approval. Cui Yingyu nodded. Zhao Duong said excitedly, "To be able to obtain Sir's approval is the biggest reward for the construction department. This subordinate doesn't dare to ask for more." Ouyang Shua waved his hand. "Hey, you should reward them. Director Zhao doesn't need to decline. This city wall will become the strongest line of defense for Shanghai town. With it, the military can be more assured to launch the spring offensive. The construction department needs to speed up the construction of ancillary facilities to ensure that the city wall becomes a complete defense system as soon as possible. The construction department guarantees that all the ancillary facilities will be completed within a week," Zhao Duong said while patting his chest. Compared to the city wall, the construction of the moat was relatively slow. Even with more manpower, it would still take at least 2 weeks to complete. After the city wall was built, Ouyang Shua planned to make a big adjustment to the territory's planning. After returning to the Lord's mansion, he asked the gatekeeper to call the kiln owner over and said that he had instructions. The kiln owner, Tao Wang, was a 32-year-old senior brick kiln master with dark skin and an honest and loyal person. Hearing that Sir had summoned him, he hurriedly rushed over from the kiln outside the town. After Tao Wang arrived, Ouyang Shua called the three directors, Zhao Duong, Hao Jiansheng, and Zhou Haichen to his office. Hao Jiansheng had been promoted to the construction department's assistant director because of his excellent performance in the examination. This was the first time he was summoned by Ouyang Shua. "Master Tao, please introduce the situation of the brick kiln to us first," Ouyang Shua said first. Tao Wang cautiously stood up and respectfully said, "Sir, there are currently 120 workers in the kiln, and there are 4,000 units of green bricks in stock. We can produce 120 units of green bricks every day, and on average, each person can produce 1 unit of green bricks every day." Ouyang Shua nodded and said, "I have a plan that I'd like to discuss with everyone here." The current architectural layout of the territory was still based on the layout of a third-level village. After the baptism of time, the original plan could no longer keep up with the pace of the territory expansion. When it comes to city planning, you can't take 1 step at a time. You have to take 2 steps at a time, or even 3 steps at a time. Hao Jianxing nodded. As the head of planning in the construction division, he had a deep understanding of this point. Our current city walls are built according to the standards of a third-class town. In that case, did it mean that in the future, the 3 symbolic stages of a third-class county, and the final capital city would have to add another city wall? Obviously not. If there were too many city walls, it would be detrimental to the development of the city. Therefore, from now on, when we discuss city planning, we must look at it from the perspective of capital city. The future capital city will cover an area of 100 square kilometers and will have a total of 3 city walls. The first city wall will be 3 kilometers long, which is the stone city wall that we've already built and will be the palace wall in the future. The second city wall will be 6 kilometers long and will be built at the county level and will be the inner city wall in the future. The last city wall will be 10 kilometers long and will be built at the county level and will be the outer city wall of the capital city. This was the second time Ouyang Shua had revealed the future capital city plan to the territory officials, revealing his ambition to dominate. Everyone present, especially the three division chiefs, felt their hearts skip a beat as they listened to the story. Back to our main topic this time, we will use the completion of the city walls as an opportunity to adjust the territory planning of the villages and towns. The adjustment here has two meanings. The first is the adjustment of the building layout, and the second is the adjustment of the building materials. First, we will talk about the building materials. Currently, the territory's buildings are mostly made of wood and stone, and they have very poor fire resistance. Therefore, we need to take this opportunity to adjust the plan and change all the wood and stone buildings into brick and stone buildings. The construction department needs to prepare the materials for the green bricks and coordinate with the kiln to ensure that the green bricks are supplied in time. Ouyang Shuo instructed. Zhao Duong nodded his head to show that he understood. His Excellency's generosity was really one after another. The construction department had just finished with the city wall construction, and now they had to take on such a task. They could not relax for even a moment. The census department needs to do a good job in allocating manpower. I suggest that we increase the number of workers in the kiln to 200 people. Ouyang Shuo said to Zhou Haichen. No problem. Zhou Haichen nodded his head. Next is the main event, the adjustment of the building layout. In principle, the farmers, workers, fishermen, herdsmen, and craftsmen, other than the craftsmen, everyone else will have to move out of the city. We will use the principle of proximity to plan the settlement. For example, the workers in the kiln can build a settlement near the kiln. The workers in the quarry can build a settlement near the quarry. This way, not only will the congested population of the town be relieved, but it will also be convenient for the workers in the settlement. This step that Ouyang Shuo took was the first step in separating the population of the city from the rural population. These settlements would be the embryonic form of the future natural village. This was also the first step in Shanghai town's transformation from a rural tribe to a city. After the farmers, workers, fishermen, and herdsmen were moved out of the city, only the craftsmen, workshop workers, craftsmen, merchants, and other people related to industry and commerce would be left in the town. This would make the town purer and more lively. Reporting to my lord, this subordinate is very much in favor of the construction of the settlement. But I have two questions. The administrative chief Fan Zhongyan took the lead to ask. Sir, please speak. After the construction of the settlement, how will the administration of the settlement be implemented, and how will the safety of the residents be ensured? Fan Zhongyan's question was very sharp. Ouyang Shuo had a card up his sleeve. The construction of a settlement was not a spur-of-the-moment idea, but the result of a long period of careful consideration. Like the spring offensive, it was one of the countermeasures to solve the problem. Good question. The management of the settlement will adopt the principle of autonomy of the residents. The residents will elect a person of virtue and prestige to be the settlement's administrator, and just report it to the administrative bureau for the record. The administrator will be in charge of the settlement's household registration and taxes. Fan Zhongyan was naturally no stranger to the position of administrator. During the spring and autumn period, there is already an administrator, and he was indeed the best candidate to manage the settlement. As for the safety of the residents, you don't have to worry about it. First, as long as the spring offensive is successfully implemented, the territory will be free of external threats, and there will be no safety issues at all. Second, in the future, 2 military camps will be set up inside and outside the city, which will be enough to ensure the safety of the residents within the territory. After answering Fan Zhongyan's question, Ouyang Shuo continued, we also need to make some adjustments to the building areas within the city walls. The West District was originally a residential area, but after a large number of residents moved out, only the Southwest District was left as a residential area. The Northwest District will be changed into a commercial area, and all the workshops will be concentrated in the commercial area. In the Northeast Military District, only military buildings such as the military camps, arsenals, stables, weapon workshops, and armor workshops will be retained. The Southeast Education District is a little empty, and we can build a batch of official residences in this area for officials of deputy chief rank and above to live in. The iconic commercial street will still be retained, but the shops will be completely renovated and upgraded. The plaza in front of the Lord's mansion will be properly refurbished, and the ground will be paved with bluestone slabs, decorated with some flower beds, sculptures, and the like, so that it will truly become a place for the residents to relax and gather. Lastly, the two intersecting main roads in the city will also need to be paved with bluestone slabs. The territory has already been upgraded to a second-class town, but the main road is still a muddy road. It really is somewhat unsightly. Zhao Duong felt bitter in his heart. According to the Lord's plan, the amount of work required was no less than building another city wall. Ouyang Shuo did not have the slightest intention of paying attention to Zhao Duong, and looked towards Cui Yingyu, asking, "The cost of the entire plan will be allocated to the public budget. Is there any problem? I can manage with some difficulty." Cui Yingyu replied cautiously. Ouyang Shuo nodded, saying, "That's good. If it's really not enough, come find me again, I'll think of something. The entire plan must be completed within a month. Is there any problem with the construction department? If we include the settlement area, to be honest, it's a bit difficult." Although he did not want to disappoint the Lord, but Zhao Duong did not dare to just accept it like this. If he straightforwardly agreed now, when the time came and he still could not complete the task, then the Lord would definitely tear him apart. Ouyang Shuo shook his head in amusement, saying, "The construction department does not need to worry about the construction of the settlement area. Since the residents are self-governing, their houses will naturally be built by themselves." Zhao Duong heaved a sigh of relief and said straightforwardly, "Then there's no problem." "Very good. Just now, I only talked about the general plan. The specific details will still need the construction department to complete, and after it's done, submit it to me for review." Ouyang Shuo finally exhorted, "Rest assured, Lord, the detailed plan will be completed within 3 days." Hao Jiansheng, who was in charge of planning, said while patting his chest, Then that's it. The meeting is adjourned." Chapter 87. The next morning, Ouyang Shuo received a call from Songjia. "Yesterday's package, I received it. Are you satisfied? What are you talking about? You scared my brother to death." "Your brother?" "Yeah. My brother and second brother are also playing this game." I didn't think that much." "Master, I'll treat you to dinner tonight. Do you have time?" "A beauty's treat. This young man naturally can't wait for it. I'm always free. At 6 in the afternoon, I'll wait for you at the entrance of the district." "Okay. See you tonight." "See you tonight." After hanging up the phone, Ouyang Shuo waved his hand and shouted excitedly, "Yes." For the whole day, Ouyang Shuo was in this excited state, just like an innocent little boy who entered spring in advance. He could only release the excessive male hormones in his body by practicing Bajikwa nonstop. At 4:30 in the afternoon, Binger came home from school on time. Ouyang Shuo then remembered that he didn't have time to prepare dinner for his baby sister. So he called Xiaoya. "Xiaoya, it's me." "What's up?" "Well, I have something to do tonight. Can you go home earlier?" "No problem. You have a date tonight?" A woman's sixth sense was really too scary. Unknowingly, Ouyang Shuo subconsciously didn't want her to know the truth, so he vaguely said, "What date?" "Just junior high school classmates." "I'm just asking casually, why are you so nervous? You guys solve the dinner yourselves." Ouyang Shuo didn't want to be entangled in this topic with a girl. "Don't worry, I can still cook simple dishes." Sun Xia muttered, somewhat dissatisfied with Ouyang Shuo's contempt, making her look like a rice worm. "Got it, then that's it, bye." Ouyang Shuo decisively hung up the phone. For the date tonight, Ouyang Shuo rarely showed off for once, properly grooming himself. He took a shower twice, shaved clean, and spent another half an hour grooming himself. Of course, he couldn't dress casually. Choosing a casual shirt with simple patterns, matched it with his treasure Zegna suit and white canvas shoes, he suddenly became a spirited, handsome young man. Finally, of course, he couldn't forget to trim his nails. The details determined success or failure. As for the perfume, he politely declined it. Before going out, Ouyang Shuo pulled Binger to his side and coaxed her, "Baby, I'm going to have a gathering with my classmates tonight. Sister Xiaoya will accompany you for dinner. Okay?" Bing was a clever girl. Like a little adult, she said, and, brother, don't worry. Binger won't tell Sister Xiaoyu. Little brat. Ouyang Shua pinched the little girl's nose and went out. Song Jia drove the red Ferrari and stopped at the entrance of the district. When she saw Ouyang Shua, she smiled and said, "Get in." Today, she was wearing a long black dress and a small shawl. She was even more radiant and beautiful, showing off her curvaceous and beautiful figure without hiding anything. Under the ambiguous gazes of the surrounding people, Ouyang Shaw entered the sports car and brazenly looked at Song Jia before he smiled. "You're wearing such a sexy outfit today. Even my heart can't take it anymore. I can't stand you anymore." Song Jia blushed. She couldn't stand Ouyang Shua's hot gaze and pouted. After his rebirth, Ouyang Shua seemed as if he'd been reborn from the ashes, and his entire person became relaxed and confident. He wasn't willing to be restrained by the rules of the world any longer, and he wanted to be a real person. He wanted to say what he wanted to say and do what he wanted to do, and he was like the wanderer of ancient times. In this way, he added a unique charm to him. This kind of charm was simply fatal to women. Although Song Jia sounded dissatisfied, her heart was thumping. Ouyang Shua couldn't conceal that he was attracted by her beauty, which was the greatest praise he could give to a woman. Yet, this fellow's eyes were so pure and clear that no one would have any lewd thoughts. It was truly intoxicating. Calming herself down, Song Jia started the car and asked, "What do you want to eat tonight? Western food? I'm fine with anything." "Okay." Half an hour later, the two of them arrived at the most high-end Western restaurant in Jiaozhou. Ouyang Shua rejoiced that he wore formal attire. Otherwise, he would have embarrassed himself. He turned to Song Jia and said, "You don't have to be so exaggerated, right? Don't pretend with me, you invisible tycoon." Song Jia said in a playful tone. After entering the restaurant, the two of them were guided by the waiter to Song Jia's reservation. After sitting down, Song Jia took the menu and asked Ouyang Shua, "You want to order first?" Ouyang Shua shook his head. He wasn't good at Western food, so he didn't want to embarrass himself. He smiled and said, "Just order according to your taste. I'm not picky." Song Jia looked at him with a beaming smile. She immediately understood what he meant, so she turned to the waiter and said, "All right, give us a baked escargot, 2 clam chowder, Danish bread, a sirloin steak, a black pepper steak, a vegetable salad, and some desserts and fruits." "Thank you." After ordering, Song Jia asked Ouyang Shua again, "What would you like to drink? How about a bottle of red wine?" Ouyang Shua was determined to live off a woman until the end. He shamelessly said, "Sure, you're the one treating, so I won't feel bad." He didn't care about the shocked expression of the beautiful waiter. Song Jia didn't care about her ladylike image and rubbed her forehead. She said to the waiter, "Give us a bottle of 2,100 wine. Thank you." "All right, please wait a moment." After the waiter left, Song Jia said, "My big brother asked me to ask you if you have any way to get a village creation order." Ouyang Shua frowned. "I don't have a village creation order, so I can only rely on luck." "How about this? The territory is going to organize a bandit extermination operation. If it drops, I'll send it to you. Don't force yourself. Actually, I'm a bit embarrassed to trouble you." If it wasn't for her big brother's instructions, Song Jia wouldn't have brought up such a topic that would ruin the atmosphere. "What trouble? Do you still treat me as a friend?" Ouyang Shua didn't mind. During the meal, Song Jia pretended to casually say, "Ruan Ping has also started playing this game." Oh, Ouyang Shua was currently competing with the black pepper steak. Hearing this blockhead's perfunctory reply, Song Jia finally got angry. She put down her knife and fork and said coquettishly, "What's with your reaction? If he wants to play, then so be it. What else can he do?" Ouyang Shua was baffled. "Forget it." Song Jia clearly had something on her mind. She wanted to say something, but stopped. A girl's mind was always like this. She would never tell you clearly and let you guess. Ouyang Shua's heart moved. He instantly grasped the crux of the problem and asked, "Is Ruan Ping still pursuing you?" "Yes, this person is too annoying. He keeps pestering me." Ouyang Shua's only impression of Ruan Ping was the gathering of his classmates on the fourth day of the first month of the year. He was a shrewd person and a qualified, rich second generation. If one were to say that Ruan Ping's relentless pursuit of Song Jia was only because of love, then no one would believe it. Although Song Jia had a unique temperament and was extraordinarily beautiful, these young masters never lacked women, even if they were beautiful women. Women were nothing more than a spice in their lives. Ruan Ping's pursuit of Song Jia was more of business considerations. The Song and Ruan consortiums were in second place in Lingnan. If they could promote the cooperation between the Song and Ruan consortiums through marriage, it would be of great benefit to both the Ruan consortium and Ruan Ping. The Ruan consortium could join hands with the Song consortium and dominate the Lingnan economic circle. Ruan Ping could take this opportunity to establish himself as the first successor of the family. Of course, Ouyang Shuo didn't rule out the possibility that Ruan Ping might have true feelings for Song Jia. However, this wasn't what Ouyang Shuo wanted to see. If it was in his previous life, he would be helpless. Even Ruan Ping wouldn't see him as a competitor. In this society where the social classes were fixed, it had become the consensus of the whole society to match each other equally. The story of Cinderella and the prince could only exist in fairy tales. However, in this life, Ouyang Shuo had already gotten the admission ticket to the top game. He had the ability and confidence to compete with any opponent. This time, he wouldn't let go of Song Jia no matter what. Perhaps they would have to fight it out with the Nguyen consortium. Don't worry, just ignore him. If it gets out of hand, just tell me. I have the confidence to deal with any crisis. Ouyang Shuo said confidently. Okay. Song Jia was relieved and said obediently. Others might think that an ordinary kid like Ouyang Shuo was too arrogant and didn't know the immensity of the heavens and the earth for saying such words. Wasn't he afraid of biting his own tongue? However, Song Jia believed in Ouyang Shuo. She believed that this ordinary-looking guy had the strength. Perhaps love could really make people lose their minds and turn them into fools. Walking out of the restaurant, Song Jia said mischievously, "Walk the road with me." Okay, I'll be honored if I have such a beauty to accompany me. Ouyang Shuo started to be frivolous again. Song Jia didn't argue with him this time. She skipped in front of him. At this time, there was no cold goddess. She was just a girl next door who was madly in love. Ouyang Shuo followed behind Song Jia. Looking at the girl who walked briskly in front of him, his eyes blurred. Love came so suddenly that people couldn't guard against it. Maybe this is happiness, he said to himself. At 9:30 p.m., Ouyang Shuo returned home. The living room was empty. At this time, it should be the time for Bing to listen to stories. Opening the door to Bing Er's room, Xiaoyu was telling Bing the story of Pleasant Goat and Big Big Wolf. "Brother, you're back." The little girl saw Ouyang Shuo and said with a smile. Ouyang Shuo walked to the bedside and patted her little head. He said gently, "Baby, sleep early." "Okay. Brother, good night." "Good night." Chapter 88. The 11th of March was another restless day. System announcement. Congratulations to player Feng Qingyang for successfully creating the Martial World Sect, Azure Sun Sword Sect, rewarding 500 achievement points, 500 reputation points, and Swordsman Town receiving the title of Martial Town. System announcement. Congratulations to player Feng Qingyang for successfully creating the Martial World Sect, Azure Sun Sword Sect, rewarding 500 achievement points, 500 reputation points, and Swordsman Town receiving the title of Martial Town. System announcement. Congratulations to player Feng Qingyang for successfully creating the Martial World Sect, Azure Sun Sword Sect, rewarding 500 achievement points, 500 reputation points, and Swordsman Town receiving the title of Martial Town. As expected of an ancient martial arts aristocratic family, to be able to establish the first sect in the China region in such a short period of time, they indeed had a deep foundation. In this manner, Feng Qingyang appeared in front of the China players. From now on, he was no longer one of the 6 hegemons of Handan whose brilliance was overshadowed by Di Chun and Lord Chunshin. If a player wanted to establish a sect in Earth on 1E, they had to meet the 4 conditions of wealth, companionship, method, and location. The minimum requirement was 200 gold coins. Companions were disciples, and the requirement was to have at least 500 disciples in name. The cultivation method was the cultivation method of the sect. It had to be at least an emperor-level cultivation method. Moreover, it had to be a comprehensive secret manual that included the cultivation method, movement technique, and moves. Naturally, the ground was where the sect resided. If a sect was established in the wilderness, it would be attacked by wild beasts and bandits. Thus, it was best to establish a sect in a player's territory. However, Feng Qingyang was quite a show-off to name his sect after himself. He just didn't know what kind of bonus the title would bring. Ouyang Shuo reckoned that it should be a characteristic that could improve the physical fitness of the residents of the territory. Perhaps he was afraid that he would not be in the limelight enough. Feng Qingyang announced on the national channel, "The Green Sun Sword Sect sincerely invites swordsmen from all walks of life to join us. The moment you join, you will be taught a royal-level cultivation technique. The quota is limited, and it's first come, first served." The other 3 from the Spring and Autumn Alliance did not want to be left out, and they all came out to make their presence known. Lord Chunshin, Brother Feng, congratulations, congratulations. Xiongba, congratulations, +1. Wandering Fantasy, +2. Feng Qingyang, thank you, brothers. Congratulations to you too. Ouyang Shuo shook his head. It's this trick again. There's no such thing as a free lunch in the world. In his previous life, Feng Qingyang had used this trick to obtain a large amount of construction funds. The disciples of Wulin's sects could be divided into 4 levels according to their ranks: outer disciple, inner disciple, core disciple, and true disciple. Different levels of disciples could learn different levels of cultivation techniques, and the specifics were decided by the sect leader. Feng Qingyang lured the swordsman to Swordsman Town with his emperor-grade cultivation technique as bait. To join the Azure Sun Sword sect, one had to pay 50 silver coins to become an outer disciple, 2 gold coins to become an inner disciple, and 5 gold coins to become a core disciple. As for true disciples, only the inner disciples of the ancient martial arts families could become true disciples. Of course, Feng Qingyang did not obtain the so-called royal-level cultivation technique from the market or by killing bandits. He did not have the ability to do so. The game allowed players to create their own martial arts. Therefore, Feng Qingyang used the self-created martial arts system to reverse materialize his family's martial arts in the game. With this clever trick, Feng Qingyang could obtain a large number of gold coins and recruit a large number of high-level players for Swordsman Town. It could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The current Azure Sun Sword sect was like a golden hen that could lay eggs. Not only that, but it was also because of this steady flow of funds that Feng Qingyang had the ability to start the true secret manual hoarding plan and make a fortune in a year's time. This series of operations was simply a stroke of genius. The entire plan was closely linked and vividly displayed the advantages of the ancient martial arts families. Ouyang Shuo knew that the mastermind behind all this was not Feng Qingyang himself, but his younger sister, Feng Qinghue. Not only was the 18-year-old girl ranked 5th on the top 10 beauties of China, but she was also one of the top 3 beauties of China, along with Han Dan's peerless elegance and Ling Xi's Qingyi. Ouyang Shuo stopped being envious of others and began to focus on practicing his great spear stance and 8 extremities fist. Because he went online very late today, it was already close to noon when he finished practicing. Ouyang Shuo appeared at the office punctually at 2 in the afternoon and began to deal with the day's administrative affairs. At around 3 o'clock, Tian Wenjing walked in with the head of the quarry, Yuan Xiaoping, and said excitedly, "Master, there's good news, great news." Ouyang Shuo was curious to see the cold-faced head so excited, so he asked, "What's the good news?" Tian Wenjing pointed at Yuan Xiaoping and said with a smile, "Let head Yuan report to Master." Ouyang Shuo nodded. Yuan Xiaoping immediately stood up and bowed, saying, "Reporting to Master. After 2 days of exploration, we finally found a large, open gold mine 5 miles south of the Mystic Bird settlement." "Great!" Ouyang Shaw stood up excitedly and asked eagerly, "How's the location of the gold mine? Is it convenient to mine it? How much ores are stored?" In reply to Master, the location of the gold mine is excellent. To the north of the mine is a 10-meter-wide river. To the west is the border with the Mystic Bird settlement. To the south is a rocky mountain that looks like a wolf, and to the east is a forest. The vein is very shallow and very easy to mine. As for the amount of ore stored, there's no way to estimate it yet. What we can confirm is that the gold mine is very rich in gold. According to my calculations, 1 ton of gold can produce at least 20 grams of gold. Therefore, I boldly estimate that the gold mine contains at least 40 tons of gold. Yuan Xiaoping had made ample preparations and reported in detail. Ouyang Shua's spirit was also shaken. According to the calculation of 20 grams of gold per gold coin, 40 tons of gold would be 2 million gold coins. Of course, the premise was that they had to be mined. Ouyang Shua then asked, "How is the mining efficiency of the gold mine?" "A skilled miner can mine 1 ton of gold in 10 days on average. The further one goes, the more difficult it is to mine, and the efficiency will also decrease. In addition, after the gold is mined, it needs to go through a complicated refining process that also requires a lot of manpower," Yuan Xiaoping said. Ouyang Shua nodded and walked back and forth in the office. He then asked the doorman to invite Cui Ingyu and Zhao Duan to the office. After inviting the two to sit down, Yuan Xiaoping gave a brief introduction of the gold mine. "Everyone, this gold mine will provide a steady stream of construction fund for the territory for a long time. It will become another pillar of the territory's revenue. Its importance cannot be overstated. In order to ensure the normal operation of the mine, I will give you a few tasks," Ouyang Shua said excitedly. "Please instruct us, Master." Yuan Xiaoping, "Yes, since this gold mine is backed by Wolf Mountain, let's just call it Wolf Mountain Mine. I appoint you as the supervisor of the Wolf Mountain Mine with the title of Assistant Director of the Resource Reserve Department. You will be fully in charge of the gold mine. Thank you for your trust, Master. I will not let you down." Being promoted from an ordinary officer to the Assistant Director was a 3-level jump. From this, it could be seen how much importance Ouyang Shua placed on the Wolf Mountain Mine. As for the iron mine, you can recommend an officer and report to Director Tian for approval. "Yes," Yuan Xiaoping replied loudly. "Director Zhao." "Yes." The construction division has to cooperate with the construction of the road from Pool Village to the Wolf Mountain Mine. If we do not have enough manpower, we can get the Mystic Bird Tribe to participate. After the road is built, it will be beneficial to them. "Understood. I will definitely complete the task." The construction division had just taken over the task of renewing the territory. Naturally, they did not have more manpower to build the road that was more than 10 kilometers long. But if the Mystic Bird Tribe participated, there would be no problem. The entire Mystic Bird Tribe had more than 3,000 people. "Director Tian, please instruct us, Master. I will leave the negotiation with the Mystic Bird Tribe to the Resource Reserve Department. The general principle is to fully mobilize the enthusiasm of the Mystic Bird Tribe and let them arrange as many young adults to work in the mine. Shanghai Town will be fully responsible for the logistics of the entire tribe. In the entire Mystic Bird Tribe, there were no less than 1,500 young adults. If they were fully mobilized, they could mine at least 100 tons of gold ores every day. Don't worry, Master. The Resource Reserve Department will definitely handle this matter properly." It was not an easy task to change the hunting tradition of the Mystic Bird Tribe. However, Tian Wenjing was extremely confident. Ouyang Shua nodded and continued. "Also, we have to negotiate with their leader, Stone Bear, and request them to organize the outstanding hunters into an organized garrison team to be responsible for the safety and security of the Wolf Mountain Mine. We must not be careless. The Wolf Mountain garrison team must have no less than 200 people. Shanghai Town will be responsible for supplying weapons, equipment, and logistics. When necessary, the military can send officers to Wolf Mountain to guide their daily training." Ouyang Shuo did not dare to let his guard down when it came to the Wolf Mountain mine, the golden goose that laid the eggs. In addition to guarding against the attacks of the wild beasts in the mountains, they also had to guard against the surrounding mountain barbarian tribes. They had not received any news yet, but once they noticed the abnormality of the mystic bird tribe, they would definitely take action. Of course, Ouyang Shuo's original intention was not to incur enmity with the other tribes. The best result would be to establish a similar cooperative relationship with the other mountain barbarian tribes through the mystic bird tribe. The establishment of the Wolf Mountain garrison team was firstly to prepare for the worst. Secondly, the garrison team could be used as a reserve force. When necessary, they could be transferred to Shanghai Town and become a regular army. Ingyu, please speak, big brother. The finance department has to speed up the renovation of the Bank of the Four Seas Treasury. We need a bigger and safer treasury. The safety measures must be in place. Tell the Public Order Bureau to strengthen the security of the Bank of the Four Seas. Don't worry, big brother. Leave it to me. All right, I have no other instructions. Everyone, hurry up and get ready. Yes. Everyone stood up and responded. Chapter 89. On the 13th of March, after 5 days of preparation, Lin Yi's cavalry unit and Zhao Xiu's infantry unit worked together to take out a mid-level bandit camp, seizing a large amount of resources and 216 gold. Ouyang Shuo immediately spent 150 gold coins to change classes for the newly formed 2nd Cavalry Company and officially appointed Li Mingliang as the acting company leader of the 2nd Cavalry Company. After leaving the military camp, he rushed to the intermediate market and spent 20 gold coins to buy a blueprint of a gold or refining workshop. He was going to hand it over to the construction division to start construction as soon as possible. The negotiations between the supplies division and the Mystic Bird tribe proceeded extremely smoothly. With his silver tongue, Tian Wenjing successfully persuaded Shi Xiong to give up the tribe tradition. The 1,500 strong men of the tribe would become full-time miners in the Wolf Mountain mine. The price that Shanghai Town paid for this was to provide the Mystic Bird tribe with 100,000 units of food every month and guide them in growing vegetables. What Ouyang Shuo did not know was that the reason why the negotiations were so smooth was directly related to the great shaman's tacit approval. Otherwise, with Shi Xiong's conservative personality, how could he be so easily convinced? The Wolf Mountain Mine's garrison team had also been formed. There are 2 platoons in total, each led by the tribe's 2 best hunters, Shi Bao and Shi Lang. Ouyang Shuo took out a batch of captured weapons and equipment from the armory and equipped the 2 garrisons to increase their fighting strength. The good news did not stop there. Just as Ouyang Shuo had predicted, the 3-flower wine brewed by Du Chun using the spring water of Lianzhou Basin was evaluated by the system as a specialty of Shanghai Town and was given the name Lianzhou 3-flower wine. They could be sold through the general store, and the transaction tax was only half of the market price. On average, 3 units of grain could produce 1 unit of 3-flower wine, and 1 unit of 3-flower wine was sold for 1 silver coin. After deducting the cost of materials, labor, and 10% of the transaction tax, the net profit was 40 copper coins. Such a huge profit was enough to make Ouyang Shuo go crazy. Ouyang Shuo didn't say anything else and shamelessly listed the brewery as a non-privatized industry, putting it under the direct jurisdiction of the finance department. At the same time, in order to maximize the profits, he also upgraded the winemaking workshop to a large workshop with a capacity of 1,000 people. Large-scale brewing workshops could produce an average of 50,000 units of 3-flower wine every month, earning a monthly profit of 200 gold coins. Apart from the economic benefits, the 3-flower wine also brought about a pleasant surprise. Lianzhou 3-flower wine, a specialty of Shanghai Town. Attractiveness to special talents with good wine increased by 15%. With such a huge harvest, Ouyang Shuo naturally wouldn't treat Du Chun unfairly. He directly offered him a monthly salary of 1 gold coin, instantly making him one of the highest paid people in the Shanghai Town. More importantly, with the three-flower wines brewing technique, Du Chun broke through to become a master wine brewer, becoming the second master wine brewer in Shanghai town after Qing Er. On the 14th of March, the Military Intelligence Division discovered a refugee camp 15 kilometers away from the center of the territory when they were investigating the roving bandits. But Face didn't dare to delay and immediately reported to Ouyang Shua. Refugee camp? That's strange. How big is it? Ouyang Shua asked in surprise. Sir, there are about 1,500 of them. There's so many people. How do they survive in the wilderness? Are there any leaders or anything like that? Ouyang Shua did not know much about the refugee camp. This kind of camp was a rare product in the wilderness and was very difficult to find. Those who could survive in the wilderness were either refugees who wandered around, waiting for the players' territories to summon them, or they were secluded villages like the Zhao family ditch where Zhao Daxin had been, which was a paradise and isolated from the rest of the world. The last kind were the roving bandits and the wolves of the wilderness. But the refugee camp didn't belong to any of the above three situations. It was called a refugee and had a fixed place to stay. If one were to call it a paradise, it would be exposed to the wilderness without any concealment. It was called a roving bandit or a bandit, but it didn't have enough combat power. He was simply neither fish nor fowl. The formation of every refugee camp was a kind of coincidence. Either they were lucky enough to find a food storage point with enough supplies to support their lives, or there was a strong person who led these refugees and formed a force to protect them from being robbed by roving bandits or bandits. Sir, you guessed right. This refugee camp does have a leader called Gu Hongliang, 35 years old. He used to be a military advisor in the army, but later he was stranded in the wilderness for some reason. This person is also quite capable. He forcefully organized a group of despairing refugees, trained them into an army, stationed them in the wilderness, and barely managed to survive. The Military Intelligence Division's intelligence work this time was done very meticulously, and they thoroughly investigated Gu Hongliang. Even if they can resist the roving bandits or bandits, I'm afraid it won't be easy for them to survive, right? Ouyang Shua said confidently. Mutants like the players, who had their own cheats, found it difficult to survive in the wilderness, let alone a group of natives. Without a market to trade with, how could they survive? Buttface nodded with a face full of admiration. Sir, you guessed right again. Because there are no food seeds or farming tools, they can't grow crops. The refugee camp can only rely on hunting and fishing to make a living. This kind of lifestyle is very unstable, and they often have to rely on wild vegetables to satisfy their hunger. Moreover, ever since mutants like you established a territory in the wilderness, the number of wild beasts in the wilderness has plummeted, and their livelihood has become even more difficult. At present, they can't hold on any longer and are just short of becoming bandits. Ouyang Shua nodded and said with a smile, This is actually an opportunity for us. To put it bluntly, if we can annex this refugee camp, we can save a lot of time. It's the refugee camp's fortune to be annexed by Shanghai town. There's no need for you to restrain yourself, sir, Buttface said with a smile. Ever since he attended Lianzhou Academy's short-term training course, his speaking skills had improved a lot. It seemed that Lianzhou Academy's training course was very successful. Has the intelligence department had any contact with Gu Hongliang? Ouyang Shua asked. Yes. I had a brief chat with Gu Hongliang and gave him a brief introduction of the situation in Shanghai town. I said that you're the most courteous person. From what I can see, he is obviously interested, but he can't put down his pride and take the initiative to ask, Buttface said with a smile. All right, then I'll make a trip myself, Ouyang Shua said, seeing that he had more or less understood the situation. This trip to the refugee camp was to bring peace, not war, so it was not appropriate to bring too many troops. Ouyang Shua only brought a small team from the intelligence department and a squadron of cavalry. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Ouyang Shua and his team arrived at the refugee camp. The entire camp covered an area of about 1 square kilometer and was only protected by a wooden fence. On both sides of the camp's gate, there were 2 watchtowers on which stood 2 sentries. When they saw Ouyang Shuo and his team, they shouted nervously, "Who are you?" "The Lord of Shanghai Town has come to visit. Please report to him," Ouyang Shuo said loudly, riding on Black Whirlwind. The sentries were surprised. Then they remembered the Lord's order and immediately replied, "Lord, please wait for a moment. I will report to the Lord immediately." "Thank you." Ouyang Shu ordered everyone to dismount and wait at the gate. 10 minutes later, a middle-aged scholar walked out of the camp. This man was of medium build, thin and broad shoulders. Although his face was covered with dust, his eyes were extremely sharp. He was wearing a coarse hemp robe. Behind him, there were more than 10 men, young men, and old men in their 50s. All of them wore coarse hemp robes, and their faces were sallow and emaciated. Before he arrived, the middle-aged scholar had already said, "The Lord has come to visit. Welcome, welcome." Ouyang Shuo signaled Buttface with his eyes to see if this man was Gu Hongliang. When Buttface nodded his head to confirm it, Ouyang Shuo said with a smile, "Please forgive me for my presumptuous visit." When the group of people following Gu Hongliang saw the powerful equipment of the cavalry squadron, a strand of fear appeared in their eyes. They seemed to be in awe. "Please come in and talk," Gu Hongliang said with a smile. Ouyang Shuo nodded his head. Then he ordered the rest of the people to set up camp outside the camp. When they entered the camp, the residents walked out of their houses and looked at Ouyang Shuo and his team curiously. Most of the residents were like the refugees in the wilderness. They couldn't even wear decent coarse hemp robes. They were all in rags and emaciated. When they went out, Ouyang Shuo put on leather armor and a sword at his waist. He looked even more heroic and extraordinary as a general. Lin, Yi, and Buttface, who were on his left and right sides, were also fully armed. Compared to the people in the refugee camp, they were totally different. Ouyang Shuo looked at the equipment of the soldiers in the refugee camp. They only had very simple leather armor and javelins and spears. He couldn't imagine how Gu Hongliang had resisted the attack of the bandits with this group of soldiers with poor equipment. Now, he valued Gu Hongliang even more. Gu Hongliang was a very resourceful person. After entering the meeting hall of the camp, everyone sat down. Except for Gu Hongliang, there were only an old man and a young man in the refugee camp. The rest of the people in the refugee camp had left. "Let me introduce to the Lord," Gu Hongliang said, pointing at the old man. "This is Elder Su, the logistics supervisor of our camp. He used to work in the Ministry of Revenue." Then he pointed at the young man. "This is Sun Tangjiao, the commanding officer of our army. He used to be a captain in the army." Ouyang Shuo greeted them and introduced Lin, Yi, and Buttface to them with a smile. When he introduced Lin Yi, he noticed that Sun Tangjiao, who was sitting opposite him, was full of fighting spirit. As for Buttface, they had dealt with him in the morning, so it was easy to introduce him. When he heard that Buttface was the director of the military intelligence, Gu Hongliang's eyes lit up. To be honest, when he introduced Buttface, Ouyang Shuo was a little embarrassed. As the director of the military intelligence of the Shanghai town, such a name was really embarrassing. Next time, I'll see if I can change this guy's name. Chapter 90. In the refugee camp's meeting hall, the two sides exchanged greetings before they got down to business. Ouyang Shuo didn't want to beat around the bush and went straight to the point. "Everyone here is a rare talent who shares the same ideals and loves the people. I'm not talented, but I would like to invite all of you to join the Shanghai town. What do you think, Guling?" "We naturally appreciate your kind intentions, my lord. But the matter of annexation is no small matter. May this old man ask, what kind of treatment can we receive if we agree to join the Shanghai town?" Old Su took the lead to ask. Ouyang Shuo nodded and smiled. "Even if Old Su didn't ask, I would have made it clear to all of you. The Shanghai town has been privatized a month ago. The territory had prepared a basic benefit for every resident who joined the territory. The basic welfare includes 100 units of grain, 20 units of meat, a piece of fur, a set of ordinary linen clothes, and 20 silver coins. It's enough to support the livelihood of the residents for 2 to 3 months. After joining the Shanghai town, The residents of the camp can choose their own jobs according to their specialties. Those who are willing to farm will be given farmlands and farming tools for free. Those who are willing to fish can rent fishing boats and go out to sea. Those who are willing to work in the lumber yards, quarries, and mines can be accepted at any time. Aside from that, the territory also has all kinds of workshops, factories, and shops, which all require talents. Taking a step back, even if you don't have any skills, you can still find a job in the construction site. Therefore, as long as you join the Shanghai town, you won't have to worry about finding a job to support yourself. On the contrary, as long as you're willing to work, it's natural for you to live a simple life with food and shelter. As for everyone here, the Shanghai town's government and military system welcomes you at any time. Gu Hongliang and Su Jinchang's eyes lit up. They were moved by Ouyang Shua's description. If that was the case, then it would be much better than staying in this simple and crude camp. As a general, Sun Tingjiao wasn't moved and loudly said, "This general has something to ask." "Please speak, General," Ouyang Shua said with a smile. He had long noticed that Gu Hongliang would play the good cop, while Su Jinchang and Sun Tingjiao would play the bad cop. Some questions that Gu Hongliang couldn't ask due to his identity were raised by the two of them. "If we join the Shanghai town, what will you do with the troops in the camp?" Sun Tengjiao asked the most sensitive question, which was the reorganization of the troops. "What's the current situation of the camp's troops?" Ouyang Shua didn't rush to answer, but instead asked a question. Sun Tengjiao nodded, feeling Ouyang Shua's sincerity. If Ouyang Shua didn't ask anything and just talked big, he wouldn't believe him. There are a total of 150 troops in the camp. Due to the lack of horses, they are mainly infantry. However, all of them are skilled in archery and horsemanship. As long as they are equipped with war horses, they are qualified cavalrymen. Sun Tingjiao was very confident in the troops he had trained. Lin Yi, who was sitting on the opposite side, curled his lips, evidently not believing him. Ouyang Shua nodded. "I naturally have faith in General's command. How about this? I'll give you a cavalry platoon, and the remaining 50 will be in reserve. When the time is right, they'll be transferred to active duty. How about that?" Reserve was just a euphemism from Ouyang Shua. Shanghai town didn't have a reserve system at all. Sun Tengjiao knew what Ouyang Shua was implying. He wanted the 150 troops to be organized into a platoon, and the rest would be eliminated. Taking into account the wounded and malnourished members in the army, 100 people were barely passable. Because of this, Sun Tingjiao didn't argue further. Ouyang Shua turned to Gu Hongliang after answering the two's questions, waiting for him to say something. Gu Hongliang, Elder Su, and Sun Tengjiao exchanged a look and said with a smile, "Sir, coming personally is enough to show your sincerity. We are struggling in the wilderness, and we can't even have enough food and clothing. It's our honor to receive your help. I, Gu, represent the 1,500 residents of the camp. Thank you for your help." "Good. With everyone's help, it's like adding wings to a tiger." Ouyang Shua laughed. After the two sides reached an agreement, Ouyang Shua took the opportunity to check the attributes of Gu Hongliang and the other two. Name, Gu Hongliang Gold. Identity, Shanghai town resident. Profession, tactician. Loyalty, 75. Commander, 35. Martial power, 50. Intelligence, 55. Politics, 60. Specialties, strategizing, increases troops' attack power by 5. Tactical proficiency, increases troops' movement speed by 10. Remarks, born in a Jinsher family, smart, decisive, and loyal. As expected, Gu Hongliang was a typical tactician. Moreover, he was a military tactician, similar to a counselor in the army. Both of his specialties were very powerful, and they were very suitable for war. Name, Su Jinchang, Silver. Identity, Shanghai town resident. Profession, civil official, high scholar. Loyalty, 75. Commander, 15. Martial power, 12. Intelligence, 40. Politics, 50. Specialties, meticulous, increases territory's revenue by 5. Remarks, born in a high scholar family, rigorous, good character, and rich experience in managing the Ministry of Revenue. Su Jinchang, was undoubtedly a pleasant surprise. Not only was he a silver-level talent, but he also had rich experience in managing politics. He was a very rare political talent. Name: Sun Tingjiao, Weikai. Identity: Shanghai town resident. Profession: beginner to general. Loyalty: 75. Commander: 35. Martial power: 35. Intelligence: 20. Politics: 20. Martial arts: military spear technique: 6 styles. Equipment: exquisite long lance. Remarks: born in the army, born with great strength, good at using long lances. Sun Tingjiao was obviously not simple. The long lance was the strongest weapon in the cold weapon era, and it was extremely difficult to master. To master it, one had to practice from a young age. Gu Hongliang and the other two were talents that Shanghai town urgently needed. Ouyang Shuo was very satisfied with them. The relocation of the refugee camp was not a small matter, and it required a lot of preparation. Gu Hongliang was naturally the one to worry about it. It was getting late, and Ouyang Shuo did not stay in the refugee camp. He left Buttface behind to coordinate and led the cavalry team back to Shanghai town. Shanghai town had to make early preparations for the addition of 1,500 people at once. Fortunately, the current Shanghai town was no longer the Shanghai village of the past. They had sufficient resources, and they could quickly build residences for these people. In addition, Ouyang Shuo planned to add 400 of them to Pool Village and upgrade Pool Village to a first-class town. On the morning of the 15th of March, the refugee camp officially moved into Shanghai town, and the large contingent moved all the way. Ouyang Shuo specially arranged for the cavalry team to protect them along the way. At 11:30 in the morning, Ouyang Shuo led all the officers of the Shanghai town to the north gate of Shanghai town to welcome Gu Hongliang and the rest. All the auxiliary facilities of the city wall had been completed. As the main gate of Shanghai town, there was a city tower made of green bricks right above the north gate, and it looked majestic. Inside the city tower, all the living facilities were available. Other than water and dry rations, there was also a large amount of fierce kerosene, rolling logs, and other war materials. There was a team of infantrymen stationed in the city tower, along with 2 archers. In front of the city tower, the Lord's flag of Shanghai town was placed everywhere. The Lord's flag was designed by Ouyang Shuo himself. The blue sea was divided into 2 by the golden dividing point. Above the sea was a towering volcano. The scorching sun was spurting out, and a giant golden dragon was spiraling up the volcano, looking noble and fierce. The main gate below the city tower was 6 meters wide and 8 meters high. Above the gate, the 2 words Shanghai were engraved in seal script. The 2 wooden gates were wrapped in thick iron sheets and were also inlaid with dense iron barbs, making it look like a monster. There was a secondary gate on both sides of the main gate, which was 4 meters wide and 5 meters high. Under normal circumstances, the main gate would be closed, and only the secondary gates on both sides could be passed through. Not far away from the secondary gate, there were 2 armory caves. The caves were divided into 2 levels. The upper level had 6 arrow holes, and the lower level had 5 arrow holes. Every arrow hole had a curved roof, and the arrow holes were slanted and could be opened and closed. There was a passage in the cave, and there were arrow holes on 3 sides. The front arrow hole was aimed at the moat, so it was easy to shoot enemies climbing the city. There were battlements on the cave, and they were integrated with the city wall to ensure the safety of the armory caves. In front of the city gate, there was a giant wooden suspension bridge that spanned across the 8 meters wide moat, reaching the other side. Because the moat was 1 meter away from the city wall, the entire suspension bridge was 6 meters wide and 9 meters long, and it could be pulled up or down by a pulley installed on the city wall. Except during times of war, under normal circumstances, the suspension bridge was lowered. Of course, in order to ensure that the suspension bridge could be pulled up smoothly during times of war, it had to be pulled up once every other week for routine maintenance. The moat was not yet completed, and apart from the underground water that leaked due to excavation, the moat was not filled, and only a shallow layer was laid at the bottom of the moat. When the people in the refugee camp saw the majestic city wall in front of them, they were all dumbfounded. compared to this city wall, the camp they used to live in was simply like a primitive tribe. With the protection of such a strong city wall, they immediately felt at ease, and the trace of dissatisfaction caused by the sudden order to migrate immediately disappeared. As expected, the Lord is still thinking about us. The days of suffering are finally coming to an end. Gu Hongliang was also a little surprised. It was not that he had never seen such a tall city wall before, but in fact, compared to the city wall of Royal City, the city wall in front of him paled in comparison. What he was really surprised about was that Shanghai town was able to build such a strong city wall in the wilderness when it was only a small town. This was very unusual. From this, it could be seen how far-reaching the Lord's strategic vision was. Chapter 91. Finally, Ouyang Shuo led a group of officials to welcome Gu Hongliang. He smiled. "Welcome, Mr. Gu. From now on, we are a family." Gu Hongliang didn't dare to delay. He bowed and said solemnly, "Greetings, sir." This bow was a gesture of submission. From now on, there would be a difference between them, and they would no longer be able to speak as equals like before. Everyone behind him bowed. The ordinary citizens even knelt down and said loudly, "Greetings, sir." Ouyang Shuo naturally understood the deeper meaning behind this, so he didn't avoid it and calmly accepted everyone's greetings before supporting Gu Hongliang up and saying with a smile, "Let's go. I've already ordered people to prepare some wine to welcome everyone." After he finished speaking, he personally led Gu Hongliang towards the Lord's estate. Shanghai town was undergoing a land renewal. There were construction sites everywhere. Gu Hongliang observed carefully along the way. The layout of the town was reasonable. The buildings were well-proportioned. It was a scene of prosperity. The citizens he saw on the way were all healthy and strong. They wore clean linen clothes and were full of energy. This was the behavior of people who lived a prosperous life and had something to look forward to. Gu Hongliang couldn't help but nod. It seemed that the promise he made to them yesterday wasn't groundless. Shanghai town was indeed as prosperous as he described. In the banquet hall of the manor, Ouyang Shuo hosted a banquet for Gu Hongliang, Su Jinchong, and Sun Tingjiao. The three directors of Shanghai town and the military representative, Shi Wansui, accompanied them. As for the other people in the refugee camp, Ouyang Shuo handed them over to the logistics department. Before the banquet started, Ouyang Shuo introduced both parties to each other. They were going to be ministers in the future. It was a good opportunity to get to know each other. Everyone on Shanghai town side was a big shot. Other than Ingyu, they were all historical figures. Naturally, they weren't surprised. Gu Hongliang and the other two were different. They were surprised again and again. They couldn't imagine how a small second-class town could gather so many talents. The little bit of arrogance they had before disappeared. They couldn't be arrogant anymore. Sun Tingjiao couldn't summon any fighting spirit when he saw Shi Wansui. When he saw Lin Yi guarding Ouyang Shuo yesterday, he thought that Lin Yi was the strongest general in Shanghai town. Who would have thought that there would be a special class general in charge of the Shanghai town's headquarters? He was simply a beast in human form. After the banquet, Ouyang Shuo wasn't in a hurry to arrange their duties. Instead, he let them go rest first. 2:00 in the afternoon, in the council hall of the Lord's mansion. The three great bureaus, 14 divisions, as well as the person in charge of a subordinate organization, as well as all the military officers above the rank of squadron leader, were gathered here to participate in the impromptu territorial discussion. Ouyang Shuo said, "This time, I called everyone here to make some adjustments to the structure of the territory. As the number of troops continued to increase, there are also more and more matters related to the army, from logistic support, weapons and equipment manufacturing research, to the management and mobilization of soldiers, to the formulation of battle plans, and so on. Therefore, I think it is necessary to set up a special department to manage the affairs of the army." As military affairs opposed to government affairs, they still didn't have a unified management department. This had become a sore point for Ouyang Shuo. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he couldn't find a suitable chief to share his burden. Gu Hongliang's appearance was undoubtedly an opportunity. I've decided to set up the Military Affairs Department, with Gu Hongliang as the director. The Military Intelligence Department and the Armor Department will be under the jurisdiction of the Military Affairs Department. In addition, the Combat Readiness Department under the Supplies Department will be separated and placed under the jurisdiction of the Military Affairs Department. The Census Department will be separated from the management of military records, and the files of soldiers will be transferred to the Military Affairs Department for management. The establishment of the Military Affairs Department involved changes in the Administrative Department and the Supplies Department. It was precisely because of this that he had called the personnel of the three great bureaus here to discuss the matter. From now on, the Shanghai town will become the four great bureaus, and Gu Hongliang would become one of the four giants of the Shanghai town. Gu Hongliang stood up excitedly and said loudly, "Thank you for your trust, sir. I will definitely not let you down." For a newcomer like him to be entrusted with such an important task, it was indeed a sign of trust. No wonder he was so excited. When Su Jinchang and Sun Tingjiao saw that they had been put in an important position, the last trace of worry in their hearts disappeared, and they began to truly integrate themselves into the big group of the Shanghai town. Ouyang Shuo adhered to the principle of not doubting the people he used, and he believed that Gu Hongliang had the ability to support the Military Affairs Department and help him solve his problems. The newly established Military Affairs Department did not have a complete set of departments. Ouyang Shuo did not rush to set it up in one go, but chose to adjust it according to the opportunity. The establishment of the Military Affairs Department also solved the problem of the Military Intelligence Department's chaotic ownership. The previous Military Intelligence Department was said to be independent and under the leadership of Shi Wansui. It was said to be part of the military, but did not have a clear organization. The Armor Department was responsible for the production of military weapons and equipment, so it was reasonable to put it under the jurisdiction of the Military Affairs Department. Zhao Yufeng of the Combat Readiness Department was demoted to Deputy Director because he was implicated in the year-end assessment, and he had been reinstated by Ouyang Shuo a few days ago. The Combat Readiness Department was put under the Military Affairs Department, which marked the beginning of independent operation of the military logistics. As the Combat Readiness Department was put under the Military Affairs Department, the status of the Supplies Department declined again. This was something that could not be helped. The Supplies Department, the predecessor of the Supplies Department, was established to solve the problem of centralized management of supplies before the privatization of the territory. With the deepening of privatization, many of the original functions could not keep up with the pace of development, so they had to be fully released. Ouyang Shuo also had arrangements for the office of the Military Affairs Department. The Construction Department will build a courtyard house in the Northeast Military Zone as the office of the Military Affairs Department. All the departments under the Military Affairs Department will be transferred there to work. No problem. Zhao Duong nodded. Ouyang Shuo made this arrangement. First, there was no extra office space in the Lord's Mansion. Second, whether it was the military camp or the armor department, they were all built in the military zone, so it was more convenient for the Military Affairs Department to work there. After making arrangement for the Military Affairs Department, Ouyang Shuo turned to look at Yu and said with a smile, I found a talented person for your finance department. I just don't know if it's easy to enter the finance department's yamen. Big brother, don't make fun of me. Others may not know, but you don't know how busy I am. To have someone to share the burden, you can't ask for more. And you glanced at Ouyang Shuo. Ouyang Shuo nodded and said loudly, That's good. I have decided to appoint Su Jinchang as the Assistant Director of the Finance Department and the Director of the Commercial Department. At the same time, Chuang Yu will be relieved of her duties as the Director of the Commercial Department. Su Jinchang stood up and bowed, saying excitedly, Thank you for your trust. I will not let you down. Su Jinchang's rich experience in government affairs was a very good addition to the finance department. With his many years of experience as an official in the Ministry of Revenue, it would be effortless for him to take charge of the Department of Commerce. Ouyang Shuo didn't want to use energy to be tied up too much by the business division. Instead, he wanted her to stand at a higher height and oversee the overall situation. After adjusting the structure of the territory, Ouyang Shua asked the generals to stay behind and held a separate military conference. Other than the platoon leader of Shanghai Town's headquarters, Zhang Dainiu from Pool Village's garrison was also present. Even Pei Donglai, who was training far away in North Sea Town, rushed back with Zhou Feng and Yu Feng, the two squadron leaders. Yu Feng used to be an elite among the pirates. Pei Donglai recommended him and promoted him to be the captain of the 2nd Squadron of Navy. Mr. Ge is not only the head of the Military Affairs Division, but also the military's combat staff officer. The spring offensive plan is very important. Mr. Ge will be in charge of the overall deployment and command. Mr. G's orders are my orders. All of you must carry them out to the letter. No slacking is allowed. Ouyang Shua went straight to the point. Yes, sir. Ouyang Shua's prestige in the military was unquestionable. These generals were all promoted by him. The generals might have doubts in their hearts, but they still carried out Ouyang Shua's orders. Military combat command was not Ouyang Shua's forte. As a modern person, it was very difficult for him to have access to such knowledge, especially in the era of cold weapons. He could only understand bits and pieces of it from books and movies. He was still at the stage of learning and exploring. Therefore, he fully delegated power to the more professional Ge Hongliang to lead the spring offensive. Then, Ouyang Shua introduced Sun Tongjiao to the generals. He would be in charge of selecting 100 people from the refugee camp to form the 3rd Squadron of the cavalry. How's the military's training? Ouyang Shua asked. Everything is going smoothly, sir. The mixed battalion is now undergoing the coordination training of the infantry and cavalry. I believe that they will be able to complete the run-in soon. The mountain barbarians have also adapted to military life and are getting along well with the other soldiers. Shi Wansui replied. Very good. Also, don't forget about the newly formed 3rd Squadron of the cavalry. Help them to integrate into the military camp as soon as possible and adapt to the military discipline. Understood. What about the garrison squadron of the Pool Village? Zhang Dainiu stepped out and said loudly, Don't worry, sir. Ever since the previous mistake, the brothers have become courageous after knowing the shame. They have trained very hard and are determined to redeem their reputation with battle achievements. I can guarantee that the current garrison platoon is definitely not inferior to any infantry platoon. Ouyang Shua nodded and turned to look at Pei Donglai. He asked, How's the situation with the Navy? Pei Donglai immediately stood up and replied, Sir, after half a month of training, the 2 squadrons of the Navy have been fully formed and are ready for battle. Ouyang Shua was relieved. He smiled and said, Very good. Since that's the case, the spring offensive has to be carried out quickly. Division Chief Ge. Yes. I'll have to trouble you to use these 2 days to familiarize yourself with the various troops in the territory as soon as possible. Then, draw up a detailed battle plan according to the information obtained by the Military Intelligence Division, Ouyang Shua instructed. Don't worry, sir. I have some understanding of the distribution of the bandits in the surrounding areas. I guarantee that I will complete the mission, Ge Hongliang said confidently. All right, then I'll wait for your good news, Ouyang Shua said in the end. Chapter 92. On the 17th of March, Di Chun appeared again. System announcement. Congratulations to player Di Chun for becoming the first lord of a level 3 town in the China region. The reward is 1,100 merit points. System announcement. Congratulations to player Di Chun for becoming the first lord of a level 3 town in the China region. The reward is 1,100 merit points. System announcement. Congratulations to player Di Chun for becoming the first lord of a level 3 town in the China region. The reward is 1,100 merit points. Handan Town only used half a month to advance from level 2 to level 3. It finally took the lead in the China region and broke Shanghai Town's long-standing lead. The outside world was in an uproar. Gradually, doubts about Ouyang Shua started to increase. Some people thought that the six lords of Handan had a strong foundation and that Ouyang Shuo was just lucky to temporarily take the lead. Now that Di Chun was in power, Shanghai Town could not hold on anymore. This kind of argument seemed to be very popular. The forum was full of posts praising Shanghai Town. Some rejoiced in his misfortune, some sighed in pity, but most of them just wanted to join in on the fun. First comment: the legend of Shanghai Town is broken. China region's Di Chun is king. Second comment: the dark horse is completely whitewashed. Shanghai Town is no more. Third comment: starting from Shangzhongyong, the rise and fall of Shanghai Town. Fourth comment: meteor fall, a tribute to Shanghai Town's past glory. Fifth comment: two heroes fight, Di Chun surpasses. Sixth comment: facts prove that the Lord is a mode that only the rich can play. The commoners are defeated. Seventh comment: who will be the next dark horse? Let's wait and see. Eighth comment: the six lords of Handan have proven themselves again. There's hope for them to reconcile. Even the members of Handan Alliance were unwilling to be left out. War Wolves and Military Kill Ripper stood up to cheer for Di Chun, belittling Shanghai Town to boost the reputation of Handan Alliance. Of course, Ouyang Shuo did not lack supporters. A large number of players saw him as a role model for the commoners. They used him as a role model to fight against the invasion of the rich players. Siege Lion, Dragon Seeking Point, and other lords stood up to cheer for Shanghai Town. 1. Supporting Shanghai Town. I can't stand those clowns who act arrogantly after taking the lead. Second comment: you can do it without clothes. We will always support you. Third comment: as long as the flag does not fall, our faith will not be extinguished and Shanghai Town will hold on. Fourth comment: you are our pride. Get rid of Di Chun. Fifth comment: continue to support Shanghai Town. Support he. The supporters of both sides started a war of words on the forum. It was very lively. At this moment, Di Chun suddenly shouted on the national channel, "How can you say you have no clothes? Just SOSO." Originally, Ouyang Shuo didn't care much about the war of words on the forum. Handan Town's quick upgrade was within his expectations. Seeing that he still had so many supporters, he felt very gratified. But this time, Di Chun was too arrogant. He couldn't tolerate it at all. In the face of Di Chun's provocation, Ouyang Shuo didn't choose to avoid it. He sneered, "I'll let you jump around for a few days." This time, he had completely labeled Di Chun as an enemy. There was no room for reconciliation. Towards Di Chun, Ouyang Shuo increasingly looked down on him. He didn't expect that this person would be so eager for quick success. If a large number of players were to enter the territory, it would definitely affect the balance of the various industries in the territory. Di Chun might be jumping around now, but in the future, he would suffer the consequences. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before he couldn't even keep his position as the leader of the 6 hegemons of Handan City, let alone be on par with Ouyang Shuo. Therefore, after shouting on the national channel, Ouyang Shuo remained completely silent. He didn't care about the discussions of the outside world and focused on preparing for the spring offensive. Ouyang Shuo didn't care about it, but that didn't mean that others didn't care. The shouting of the two parties further escalated the situation. All the forces were discussing countermeasures. In the meeting hall of Lingxi Town, the 4 beauties, green, red, purple, and white, gathered again. "Big sister, what do you think about Di Chun's provocation?" Violet asked. "What else can I think? It's obvious that Di Chun is building up momentum for himself. He wants to restore the reputation of Handan Alliance and reclaim his position as the leader of the China region," Bai Hua said. "That's right. He wants to climb up by stepping on Di Chun. It's a good plan. On the surface, it looks very successful. Right now, there are many people on the forum who are criticizing Shanghai Town. Although many of them are paid by Di Chun, there are also many people who don't understand the situation and have the same opinion," Qingyi added. Violet was stunned. He asked doubtfully, "Fourth sister, do you mean that you don't think Di Chun will succeed in this operation?" "Of course. Leveling up to a level 3 town is just a small hurdle. As long as they are willing to use players to make up for the population of the territory, it will be very easy to level up. This doesn't mean anything. Only Di Chun is like a clown, publicizing it in such a high-profile manner. The most important competition is the competition between a level 3 town and a level 1 county. With the characteristics of the system, there will definitely be some special obstacles. Didn't Shanghai Town rely on this to gain an advantage? Second sister, didn't you see Di Chen's reply on a national channel? It is obvious that he is much calmer than Di Chun. Qingyi explained. As expected of Constance's brain, she looked at the essence of the problem. Bai Hua nodded and said with a smile, "Fourth sister is right. There's one more detail that I don't know if you have noticed." "What detail?" the sisters asked curiously. "The private strategy that Di Chan passed on to us," Bai Hua said mysteriously. Qingyi frowned and said in surprise, "Big sister, you mean?" "That's right." Bai Hua nodded. "Aya, don't talk in riddles. What detail is it?" Han Ying, who was the most reluctant to use his brain, muttered. From the private strategy, Di Chan seems to have a very deep understanding of the game. It is almost certain that he participated in the closed beta, just like me. Not only that, but his participation might be even higher. I'm guessing that Yu Wui must have had a general understanding of the conditions required to be promoted to a town in advance. This would explain why he was able to formulate such a targeted privatization plan, walk ahead of everyone in one fell swoop, and take the crown of the best town in the world, Bai Hua explained. Violet's brain was still a little more agile. At this time, she had already reacted and said with uncertainty, "Big sister, what you mean is that Di Chun probably already knew the requirements to be promoted to a level 1 town. And that requirement must be very difficult. Even with Di Chun's strength, it would be difficult to achieve it in a short period of time. Is that why he is so fearless?" "That's right," Bai Hua said with certainty. "But how is that possible?" Violet still didn't believe it. Even someone like Di Chun, who has such a strong background, didn't know about it. How could Di Chun know? "Who is he?" Bai Hua said with a smile. "First, this is just my guess. Second, I think we already have some understanding of the mysteries of this game. With Gaia's personality, it is not strange at all for something like this to happen." Speaking of details, sisters, did you notice that Handan Alliance seemed to be missing one person to wave the flag for Di Chun? Qingyi continued. "Feng Xiaohuang?" Bai Hua was the first to react. "That's right. Big sister, do you know anything about this person?" Qingyi asked. Bai Hua shook her head and said with a bitter smile, "Feng Xiaohuang has never dabbled in any games before, so how could I know anything about him? All I know is some basic information that was exposed on the forums." "I have some guesses," Qingyi said with a smile. "Oh, quickly tell us about it." Bai Hua was looking forward to learning more about his youngest sister. Qingyi nodded and said, "The power that Feng Xiaohuang represents is a united force. No one in the alliance is strong enough to go against Di Chun and the others. That's why they group together. This kind of temporary group is a test of the leader's ability to coordinate. For Feng Xiaohuang to be able to stand out, it shows his ability. Feng Xiaohuang's background is also very clear on the forums. He comes from the Feng family, the largest force in the alliance. The Feng family is a very special family. The men are in charge of the internal affairs while the women are in charge of the external affairs. The male members of the family do not need to participate in the organization's affairs. They spend their days idling around, eating, drinking, and having fun, but they hold the highest authority in the family. The female members of the family work hard for the family, but in the end, they often become sacrifices for the family's marriage alliances. The name Feng Xiaohuang is the best description of the Feng family. I boldly speculate that as the most outstanding female member of the Feng family in the past 100 years, Feng Xiaohuang must be unwilling to become the next puppet and sacrifice of the family. If she wants to make a difference, she needs to find an invisible ally. And this ally cannot be a member of Handan's 6 hegemons. Hao Wui is undoubtedly the most suitable. Did you guys notice that when Shanghai Village became #1 in the world during the monster attack, Feng Xiaohuang once appeared on the forums to congratulate them? This time, Handan Alliance attacked Hao Wui, and Feng Xiaohuang once again maintained her silence. From this, it can be seen that Feng Xiuhuang is not of the same mind as Han Dan Alliance. Her attitude towards Hao Wui is still mainly to cooperate and show goodwill. Bai Hua took the lead to applaud, smiling as he praised. As expected of our little Zhuge, just by relying on these small clues, she can pull the threads out of the cocoon and see through the essence of the problem. Qingyi smiled embarrassedly. This is just a guess of mine. It's not accurate. All right, no matter what, we still have to believe in our ally, Hao Wui. As for the rest, we don't need to worry about it. Just focus on our own matters. Bai Hua concluded. Chapter 93. At the same time, in the mayor's office of Luofeng Town. See, sister, Dichen is unhappy with our silence this time. The one speaking was a petite girl in her late teens, dressed like a strategist. Other than Feng Xiuhuang, Luofeng Town also had 4 core members: Qing Wan, Zhu Ke, Black Swan, and Shui Yin. The 4 of them were the daughters of the core families of the Alliance. Be it looks or ability, they were the cream of the crop. Humph, Di Chun is too arrogant. We joined the Han Dan Alliance, but that doesn't mean we have to listen to his orders. Qing Wan, tell them that Luofeng Town has its own position and Han Dan Town has no right to interfere. Feng Xiuhuang was very unhappy with Di Chen's arrogance. Her beautiful face showed a hint of anger, and she frowned. Understood. But why are you so protective of that Hao Wui? Is he really that powerful? Qing Wan asked curiously. You don't understand. Feng Xiuhuang mumbled to herself, her face full of worry. Qing Wan thought for a while and left the office quietly, giving Feng Xiuhuang some privacy. On the 18th of March, Shanghai Town's spring offensive officially started. The first to suffer were the 2 mid-level bandit camps in Shanghai Town. Under Gu Hongliang's command, the 3 cavalry platoons and the 3 infantry platoons in the main camp crushed them one by one with the momentum of MT Tai. They obtained 387 gold coins and a large amount of equipment. They also captured 62 bandits and 241 non-combatants. On the same day, news came from Pool Town. Under Zhang Dainiu's leadership, the garrison company successfully destroyed a low-level bandit camp. Ouyang Shuo did not take any of the spoils of war. He left everything to Pool Town to distribute. On the 20th of March, the troops rested for a day before launching another attack. This time, it was the only high-level bandit camp in Shanghai Town. To ensure that nothing goes wrong, Gu Hongliang mobilized the garrison company from Pool Town to participate in the operation. Facing the strong defenses of the bandit camp, Gu Hongliang first arranged for the infantry company to provoke them. When the enemy's main force rushed out of the camp, the cavalry company suddenly attacked from behind and defeated them in one fell swoop. The battle was fruitful. They obtained a total of 825 gold coins and a large amount of weapons and equipment. They captured 232 bandits and 375 non-combatants. In addition, he had also obtained a territory characteristic scroll, 5 civil official change tokens, and a medium-sized spatial stone. Territory characteristic scroll. 2 after use, special talent attraction rate increases by 5. Space stone. Medium after use. The storage bag space can be expanded to 100 cubic meters. Ouyang Shuo used the special scrolls and spatial stones, and the 5 official positions were given to Sun Yanong, Du Xiaolan, Zhao Yufeng, Yang Yun, and Yuan Xiaoping. In this way, other than the Military Intelligence Division, the Armor Division, and the Public Order Division, all the other division chiefs became civil officials, further improving the administrative efficiency of Shanghai Town. The head of the Military Intelligence Department, Dog San, had already been promoted to a junior general. The head of the armor workshop, Wang Zhuan, had to retain his profession as a senior blacksmith. The head of the Public Order Department, Li Tai, had long been promoted to a yamen runner. Apart from Buttface, Zhang Dainiu, and Li Mingliang had also been promoted to junior generals after these battles. Liao Kai, Shihu, Wang Feng, and the others had all reached rank 8 elite soldiers, and were only a step away from becoming beginner generals. The squad leaders who performed outstandingly in the battle were also promoted to squad leaders, becoming the best candidates for the position of squadron leader. Among them, a squad leader named Zhao Yan had the most outstanding performance. He was promoted to rank 8 elite soldier and was appointed by Ouyang Shuo as the second squad leader of the 1st Infantry Squadron. The biggest surprise came from Lin Yi. This young general had participated in many battles since the founding of Shanghai Village and had finally broken through and become an intermediate general. Name: Lin Old. Identity: Squadron leader of the 1st Cavalry Squadron. Profession: Intermediate General. Loyalty: 90 Commander, 40 Strength, 50 Intelligence, 25 Politics, 20 Martial Arts. Lin family ancestral spear technique, total of 12 styles. Equipment: Fine Iron Spear, Ring Blade, High-Quality Warhorse. Remarks: Studied the art of war since young and practiced spear techniques. However, his temperament was unruly and he was unrestrained. On the 22nd of March, Shanghai Village launched an all-out attack on the last large water bandits in their territory. There were 3 cavalry squadrons and 3 infantry squadrons. In addition, there were 2 navy squadrons and Pool Town Garrison Squadron. There were a total of 900 regular soldiers. Under Gu Hongliang's command, they advanced on land and water. The Navy launched a feint attack on the river, and when the water bandits' warships moved out, they used a diversion tactic. The infantry squadrons and cavalry squadrons broke through the main gate of the water bandits and took control of the water bandits. Seeing that their base was occupied and that there was a navy blocking their way on the river, the water bandits had no choice but to surrender. In this battle, because of the proper use of tactics, they took down the water stockade without much effort. There were more than 1,000 people in the water bandits, and other than 52 who died in battle, the rest were captured. They obtained a total of 954 gold coins, a large amount of resources, 3 intermediate warships, and 4 special items. The special items included 2 charm amulets, a military book, and the Mengchong Warship Manufacturing Manual. It was a pity that they did not get the village creation token that Song Jiao wanted. Stamina Charm. After use, it can quickly replenish stamina and restore battle strength. Marching Charm. After use, the troop speed is increased by 50% for 2 hours. The 2 charm amulets were very precious, and when used at critical moments, they could have miraculous effects. The Stamina Charm could double a general's battle strength, and its effects were remarkable. The Marching Charm was even more impressive. If there was a need for a surprise attack, after use, it could cause the enemy to misjudge and arrive at the assembly point in advance, dealing a fatal blow to the enemy and producing an unexpected effect. Name: 6 Secret Strategies, Wu Tao Volume. Attributes: After equipping, increases Commander-in-Chief by 10 points, increases troops' battle strength by 10 points. Remarks: One of the 10 ancient military books. It is a work that gathers the military thoughts of the Pre-Qin dynasty and is known as the ancestor of military strategists. The military book is divided into 6 volumes, and this is the 2nd volume, which talks about military strategies. Although the 6 Secret Strategies was only a remnant volume, its effects were already very impressive. If one could gather a complete set, who knows what other nature-defying properties it would have. Mengchong Warship Manufacturing Manual. After use, you will know how to manufacture Mengchong warships. The Mengchong warships were the main warships of the Han Dynasty Navy. They were long and narrow, and had high mobility, which made it easy to clash with enemy ships. With it, the shipyards could finally manufacture decent neutral warships to arm the Navy. Ouyang Shuo had participated in the entire spring offensive operation, and his level had soared to level 40, surpassing the highest level for adventurer players, level 38. Not only that, but he had also destroyed 4 bandit camps and a water stockade. In addition to the rewards of establishing Pool Village and being promoted to a town, his achievement points had reached 13,200 points, and he had been promoted to a 2nd-class Earl. His reputation points had reached 10,450 points, and he had been promoted to the level of famous far and far. His title had been promoted to Kingdom Knight. With such a huge change, Ouyang Shuo couldn't help but check his personal attributes. Name. Don't say you don't have clothes. Title. Kingdom Knight. Increases favorability of historical characters by 25. Territory. Shanghai Town. Occupation. General. Part-time. Level 40. Achievement. 13200/25600. Title. Second class Earl reputation. Famous far and wide. 10450/1000000. Root bone. 18 comprehension. 21 fortune source. 5 charm. 8 commander. 53 plus 10 strength. 16 intelligence. 13 politics. 50 talents. Lock cultivation method. 8 extremities fist. Scripture, advanced. Art of war. 6 stratagems. Martial stratagem volume. Skills. Advanced collection technique. Beginner shipbuilding technique. Intermediate diplomacy technique. Advanced detection technique. Advanced weapon mastery. Basic horsemanship technique. Basic marksmanship technique. Basic archery technique. Mount. Black whirlwind. Gold. Equipment. Ring of courage. Black iron. High-quality composite bow. Gold. High-quality fine iron sword. Gold. High-quality fine iron spear. Gold. Bull protection. Dark gold. Barbaric bracers. Silver. Barbaric boots. Silver. Barbaric belt. Silver. Barbaric bracers. Silver. Special items. Bloodthirst talisman. Stamina talisman. Military talisman. Since he had decided to lean towards the generals in the future, his combat points naturally couldn't be too low. Therefore, when his politics was raised to 50 points, Ouyang Shuo changed the allocation of his free attribute points to 1 commander point and 1 strength point. In any case, 50 politics was enough. After all, he had so many civil officials to help him deal with government affairs. As for the talents column, if he wanted to unlock it, it really depended on luck. Some players successfully unlocked their talents when they were level 10, while others didn't even unlock it when they were level 50 or 60. Players like Ouyang Shuo, who had reached level 40 and still hadn't unlocked it, were already very rare. The main reason was that he had relied more on external help to increase his level. He had participated in too few bloody battles. It was often when he was in a life or death situation that it was the easiest to unlock his talents. After a long period of practice, Ouyang Shuo's 8 extremities fist had finally leveled up and reached the advanced level. In addition, basic skills like gathering, diplomacy, detection, and weapon mastery had all leveled up. Regrettably, he still hadn't found a suitable spear technique manual yet. Apart from these changes, Ouyang Shuo's equipment had also been updated. After these few battles, he had obtained a large number of weapons and equipment. He took the opportunity to change all his bows and swords to gold grade. As for dark gold grade weapons, they were still considered rare items and weren't that easy to obtain. The operation to eliminate the water bandits had gone so smoothly. Naturally, there were pros and cons. Because there hadn't been any direct confrontation, the elite soldiers who were rank 8 and ready to advance to rank 9 missed the opportunity to advance. If they wanted to advance to beginner general, they would have to continue to delay. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.